Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto breaks Fem Sasuke. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. Not again. Suki Uchiha whispers to herself as she watches the sun rise over the Sound Village. 3 years. That was how long she had been away from the Leaf Village. She refused to call that place her home, but then again neither was the Sound. Home was where the heart was, and her heart had been shattered when she was 7 years old. On the day that Itachi butchered every other member of their clan, Suki Uchiha lost everything. Well, she had lost everything except for her life. She had lost her loving family and her home. The Uchiha district in Leaf Village had just been where she happened to live. They hadn't truly been home. Not what again? Kabuto asks her as he approaches the last Uchiha. Suki felt her eyes narrow as the medic sauntered over to her. He was Orochimaru's lapdog. If Orochimaru wasn't watching her, Kabuto usually was. It was a rare moment that she had any actual privacy in the Sound Village. Usually, that was fine. She hadn't come to the Sound because she wanted to live there. Suki had come because she needed to. The raven-haired woman needed to get stronger. She needed to get stronger so she could defeat Itachi and avenge her clan. It's nothing. I just couldn't sleep. It's probably a mild reaction from whatever poison you injected into me yesterday, she says, thinking quickly. At moments like these, she desperately wanted to be alone though. Try as much as she might, she couldn't forget him. Damn that loser. His heartbroken expression shouldn't still haunt her, and the memory of his smile shouldn't still comfort her. Well, perhaps we'll skip the injections for today. We don't want to push our luck too far. After all, you are going to be Orochimaru's next body. We can't have you dying on us, he says. The sun and blue skies reminded her of him most. So almost every day, she thought of him. She hated herself for it just as often, but there was no use denying the fact that she hadn't been able to sever their bond completely. Yes, that would be such a shame, Suki replies dryly. Indeed, it would. You remember the deal. Lord Orochimaru will make you strong enough to kill Itachi, in exchange for you becoming his next vessel, he states as he pushes his glasses up the bridge of his nose. Suki was tempted to grab those glasses and shatter them. Everything about Kabuto irked her. Everything about Orochimaru made her uneasy. The only thing that she wanted more than getting away from this place was Itachi's death. Unfortunately, that meant that she had to stay for the time being. How could I forget? You're constantly reminding me. Suki snaps at him. Now, Suki, what's wrong? You sound rather distressed this morning, she hears an all too familiar voice say. Damn it, the snake was up early today. She sighs as she glances at the sun one last time, before turning around to face her sensei. I'm upset because Kabuto insists on pointing out the obvious, and I didn't sleep well last night. Thanks to his poisons, she mutters in disgust. Perhaps you should take a day to rest, Orochimaru suggests as he caresses her cheek. The action made Suki's skin crawl. The last Uchiha wanted nothing more than to unsheath her sword and cut his hand off. The very fact that he would dare to touch her, even platonically, made her burn with rage. Perhaps you should remove your hand. I agreed to be your vessel and nothing else. I'm not going to rest. Itachi is still out there and he's likely getting stronger every day. I don't have time to waste. Suki snaps at him. There's that famous Uchiha fire. Come, Suki. We have a lot of work to do, Orochimaru says as he gestures for her to follow him towards the forest. Suki knew what that meant. The snake was going to continue her training today. She sighs and mentally braces herself. Hopefully, she would at least learn something useful because it was likely going to be a very long day. Damn it, she mutters under her breath as she follows the legendary Sannin. Meanwhile, Naruto was traveling with Jiraiya. It was still early in the morning, but the blonde didn't mind that. They were so close. They were almost back home. It was going to be great to see Sakura and Kakashi-sensei again. Hell, he was even curious to see what Konohamaru and Granny Tsunade were up to. Not to mention, he was eager to see how much stronger the other members of the Rookie Nine had become. I'd say another hour or two and we'll be back in the Leaf. I bet that you're happy about that, the Toad Sage says cheerfully. That last thought causes him to frown. The Rookie Nine wasn't complete anymore. Suki had been missing for years and they were no closer to finding her than on the day she left. Yeah, it'll be great to be home again, Naruto says, forcing a smile to his face and some cheer into his voice. He didn't want pervy Sage to know how upset he was about that. Whining about it wasn't going to bring her back. They would find a way though. He hadn't given up his former teammate. He never would. I don't think you're lying to me, but you don't have to pretend to be happy. I know that you're worried about her. You have a very good reason to be. Orochimaru will be wanting to make the transfer soon. Jiraiya says somberly. That was the strange thing about Jiraiya. One moment, he'd be laughing about research, and the next minute, he'd transform into a serious ninja. A serious ninja who was worthy of the titles Sage and Sannin. Frankly, his second sensei's dual nature made him dizzy sometimes. We'll find her though. That freak is not going to kill her. Naruto says. Kid, I'm not going to lie to you. We'll do our best, but it doesn't look good. Jiraiya tells him. Naruto clenches his fists so hard that he could feel his fingernails cut into the skin. His teeth soon followed. The blonde grits them so tightly that it was borderline painful, but he had to do it. It was the only way that he wouldn't completely explode at the underlying implication. Pervy Sage was saying that there was a chance that they wouldn't be able to save her. He was trying to prepare Naruto for the possibility that Suki might not make it out of the Sound Village alive. Naruto wasn't going to let that happen though. You don't know her. She's a survivor. First, there was the massacre. Then there was the fight with Haku. Suki isn't easy to kill. Naruto protests. Jiraiya sighs and nods. He really wanted to tell the kid that they'd find his friend, but he didn't want to lie to the boy. Unfortunately, Naruto was still a young ninja. The only deaths that he had seen or could remember hadn't had a direct impact on him. The third Hokage had died and that probably hurt Naruto, but he hadn't watched the man die. That and it was somewhat expected. Sarutobi had been an old man. He had lived far longer than most ninjas ever would. His death had been a tragic loss for them all, but not a surprise. I know she's tough, Naruto. Orochimaru wouldn't have been interested in her if she was weak. We'll organize a search party and look for her. For now, we know she's safe. He's not going to allow anything to happen to her until that transfer can take place. The Toad Sage points out. Naruto had seen Haku and Zabuza die, but that was different. While the blonde had felt sympathy towards Haku, he wasn't a comrade. He wasn't a friend. Suki's death would be far more painful. Honestly, Jiraiya wasn't really sure that Naruto would be able to handle it. That's why he wanted to save the girl. He supposed in a way, Suki was Naruto's Tsunade. He would have been utterly devastated if something happened to Tsunade. So he could relate. How long do we have? Naruto dares himself to ask. At least 3 months, maybe 6. Jiraiya informs him. 3 months. They only had 3 months left. The Leaf had already been looking for Suki for 3 years. Naruto felt it again. A primal rage. It was Kurama's chakra, but the anger was his own. He wasn't going to let that damned snake kill his friend. He had almost lost her once during the fight with Haku. For a few short moments, he had actually thought she was dead. He never wanted to feel that way again. I'm going to kill him. He growls. Naruto, our first priority is to rescue her. If we can take Orochimaru out, we will. Don't do something reckless though. Don't rush in without a plan and get yourself killed. Orochimaru is a highly dangerous ninja. He killed the third Hokage. Remember that. The sage warns him. I know. Saving her comes first, but I'm still going to kill him. Naruto replies. He didn't get to treat her that way. Orochimaru get to talk about Suki like he owned her or she was a thing. He damn sure wasn't going to get away with placing a curse mark on her and then trying to steal her body. Naruto was going to save his friend and then he was going to make sure that that snake couldn't hurt anyone again. Naruto knew that it was wrong. He shouldn't want to hurt people. It was one thing to kill someone in self-defense. That was just a fact of life when you were a ninja. It was another to kill someone because you hated them. He definitely hated Orochimaru. Well, we're home, kid. Jiraiya tells him with a smile. He hoped that this would be good for Naruto. Maybe being back in the Leaf would help him. There was a lot of Minato and Kushina in Naruto, but he couldn't help but worry about the 9 tails. Jiraiya suspected that it was likely starting to influence him, just a little too much. A few weeks pass and Suki was pleased with her progress. She now had 2 summon contracts and could radiate a Chidori all along her body. She could even channel it through her sword. You're doing wonderfully and rather fortunate that Aoda took a liking to you. He's far less demanding than Manda. Orochimaru observes. You mean the monster that demands 100 human sacrifices before he'll even consider following your orders? Suki asks dryly. Orochimaru was truly a psychopath. Suki wanted Itachi dead. She wanted him dead more than anything, but her bloodlust wasn't a blind one. She wouldn't kill innocent people to accomplish her goal. Well, at least not if the last female Uchiha could help it. He's not a monster. He's a snake. There is vast difference between a large snake and a monster. Essentially though, you are correct. Yes, he does require 100 sacrifices. It's rather annoying, but well, you get what you pay for. Orochimaru replies with a smirk. Suki resists the impulse to punch his teeth out for that comment. How could he speak so casually about 100 people dying? It was as if their deaths were no more consequential to him than a paper cut. It was disgusting. He's not a monster because he's a snake. He's a monster because he requires that many sacrifices. Aoda doesn't ask his summoner to do such things. It's clearly not necessary. She mutters. You're surprisingly tender-hearted for an Avenger. Suki, you're a ninja. You're a killing machine. It's what we do. Only the strong survive. Mercy is a childish notion. A childish notion that will get you killed one day. Orochimaru tells her, when it comes to Itachi, I'll show no mercy. After that, it doesn't matter. You're taking my body anyway. She mutters. Orochimaru smirks. He had trained her well. Finally, he would have the perfect vessel. Truly, it was a pity. She would have been the perfect companion, despite her age. Unfortunately, she was likely going to be the key to him unlocking immortality. That meant that she had to be sacrificed. A valid point, my dear. He coos at her. Suki bites her tongue so hard that she could taste some of her own blood. She wanted so badly to lash out at him. A Chidori below the belt sounded like a fine idea at the moment, but she knew that it wouldn't end well. She still needed him. Suki knew that she was a lot stronger than she was 3 years ago. What she didn't know is how she would stack up against Itachi at this point. Whatever. It's been a long training session and I imagine that you need your rest. Suki says. Such a vicious little thing you are. Reminding me of my deteriorating condition was not very nice. Regrettably, you are correct. Good night, Suki, he says as he walks off. Suki was tempted to thrust her sword into his back and end him. As much as she wanted to do that, she knew that now wasn't the time. There was still more that she could learn from him. I saw that look. You wanted to kill him. Kabuto says from behind her. And you're a stalker. There's a big difference between wanting to do something and actually doing it. I'm certain that Orochimaru knows how I feel about him. She says with a shrug. I will never understand you. Orochimaru is offering you the world and you still scorn him. The silver-haired medic says. Suki's eyes narrow. Orochimaru wasn't offering her the world. What he was offering was a temporary power boost and an early death. You're right about one thing. You'll never understand me. Unlike you, I don't worship him. I'm using him as a means to an end. The same thing that he is doing to me. She hisses. I hope that you don't have some childish notion that you'll be able to kill Itachi and then Orochimaru. Perhaps you even believe that you'll just wander back into the Leaf Village and because you killed Orochimaru, all will be forgiven. Maybe you'll have a few loud-mouthed blonde Uchihas down the road. I really hope for your sake, that isn't what you are planning because it will never happen. Kabuto tells her. That was it. Suki lunges at Kabuto in a blind rage. How dare he talk to her like that? Who did he think he is? When her sword stabbed him through the heart, he turned back into a log. Suki growls and looks around. How had she fallen for the oldest trick in the book? I thought that might be the case for a while. I just wanted to confirm it. Puppy love is adorable, Suki. Though I doubt Lord Orochimaru would be nearly as amused by it as I am. He taunts her. If you are harboring some delusion that I'm in love with Naruto, then you're simply wrong. Go tell your crazy theories to Orochimaru. Do you think he'll care? Do you think he'll believe you over me? The raven-haired woman demands. Kabuto's eyes narrow at Suki. Suki just smirks in response. She knew that she hit a nerve there. The silver-haired ninja was upset that he was no longer Orochimaru's favorite. That had to burn him. Part of her was pleased at that knowledge. He's blinded by his obsession with you. That's all it is. It doesn't matter though. At the end of the day, you're just going to be another body for him. Remember that. You'll get your revenge and then your life will be forfeit. Kabuto says as he walks off. The next day, Suki was standing on the edge of a cliff with Kabuto and Orochimaru when the new Team 7 found them. Her heart felt like it was going to stop when she saw them. Naruto and Sakura were there, but so were two people that she didn't recognize. There was a man about Kakashi's age. She assumed that something must have happened to Kakashi. Why wasn't Kakashi on this mission to retrieve her? Had her former sensei completely given up on her? Well, it looks like they found us. Orochimaru observes. There was a pale boy about her age as well. Suki immediately discerned that he was her replacement. That made her blood boil with rage, until she saw the look in Naruto's eyes. It was all that she could do not to flinch. "Suki," he calls out. She notices that Kabuto was watching her every move. If she wanted to save Naruto's life, she was going to have to do something cruel. That's when she flitted down to them and was immediately at Naruto's side. "It's been a long time," she whispers into Naruto's ears. Idly, she notes that it really had been a long time. Naruto was actually taller than her now. His shoulders were also broader and his fashion choices had improved modestly. Mentally, she scolds herself for such observations. She had to stay focused. "Yeah," he murmurs. "Come to think of it, didn't you want to be Hokage? All that time that you spent chasing after me would have been better spent on training. Don't you think, Naruto? Then again, you've never been very good at thinking things through. You always rush in without thinking about the consequences," she asks as she slowly unsheathes her sword. "I'm not going to let him take your body. What kind of Hokage would I be if I can't save my friend?" he asks her. It was such a Naruto response. Brave, honest, and so painfully naive that it both made her want to smile and roll her eyes. He really just didn't get it. Suki knew that she had to do it. She had to at least make it look like she was trying to slit his throat or attacking him in some way. It was the best way to make Kabuto believe that he was wrong about her feelings for the blonde. That was why she raises her sword at him, but the hit never landed. It was blocked by her replacement. Suki couldn't help but feel enraged. This was none of his concern. He had no right to interfere with her and Naruto. That was why she radiated Chidori and dealt with him quickly. "I'm not coming back. Not until he's dead. Stop following me," she says, before teleporting back up to Orochimaru and Kabuto. She didn't know if what she had just done would succeed in throwing Kabuto off her trail, but Suki couldn't take it anymore. The last female Uchiha couldn't take looking into those big blue, hurt eyes. She had to get out of there. "Let's go," she says, and they teleport off into a swirl of flames. "Not again," Naruto growls as he slams his fist into the ground in frustration. He couldn't believe it. They had almost had her and she just slipped off like it was nothing. He had just froze like an idiot. Naruto should have knocked her out. He should have strained her. Suki would have hated him when she woke up. She would have kicked, screamed, and maybe even bitten him. That wouldn't matter though. At least she would be safe. "We'll get her back, Naruto," Sakura assures him. Naruto sighs and nods. He wanted to believe that. He had to believe that. He had made a promise to Sakura and himself. The blonde was going to keep it. One way or another, he was going to keep it. "Can we track them?" Naruto asks Yamato. It'd be difficult with a teleportation like that. His temporary captain replies and Naruto sighs. He couldn't believe it. What had gone so wrong that Suki had thought it was necessary to go with Orochimaru of all people? He knew that she wanted to kill Itachi, but she could have gotten stronger in the Leaf Village. She didn't have to leave them. She didn't have to leave him. He could scarcely reconcile the beautiful woman who had nearly slit his throat with the girl that had broken the rules to feed him when they became genin. He had broken the rules and that was why he was tied to a stupid post. Naruto was starving. His belly growled like a lion and he knew that his two female teammates heard it. That was just his luck. He was assigned to the only squad with two girls. Neither of them particularly cared for him, either. Sakura was the girl he had a crush on, but all she cared about was being like Suki. Suki seemed to hate him. At least that was what he thought. "Here," she said simply as she thrust her lunchbox by his face. "WH@? Really?" Naruto asked in disbelief. "Suki, what are you doing? If you get caught, we'll all get sent back to the academy." "Are you crazy? You heard what Kakashi-sensei said." Sakura shrieked at her. The last female Uchiha rolled her eyes in response. It was as though she was disappointed that Sakura would even ask that question. Maybe she was. Naruto could never tell what was going on in that girl's mind. "Kakashi isn't here, right now. Use your head. If he's weak from hunger, we aren't going to get any of those damn bells." We'll be sent back anyway. At least this way, we'll have a better chance of getting those bells. She muttered. Fine, Sakura said as she held up her half-eaten lunchbox as well. I can't eat, remember? No hands. You're going to have to feed me, Naruto said cheekily. Naruto saw Sakura twitch. Clearly, she wasn't too happy about that observation. Suki didn't seem to care though. Just do it. Do it fast. We don't want to get caught. Come on, Sakura, you're wasting time, she ordered the other girl. While Sakura was in the middle of feeding Naruto, Kakashi showed up. Immediately, Naruto's female teammates got in front of him. He was touched that they were defending him. It was the first time that anyone other than Iruka had gone to bat for him. I told you not to feed him? Why did you feed him? What kind of ninjas can't follow such a simple instruction? Kakashi demanded. Because the three of us are one. That's why you did it. That's why you only had 2 bells, but 3 genin. You were playing us against each other from the start. You wanted us to fight. You wanted to send us back to the academy. This wasn't a fair test. Suki accused him. The 3 of you are one? That's your excuse? The Jonin growled angrily. Naruto felt himself shiver. Damn, Kakashi-sensei sounded really angry. This might not end well. Yeah, Sakura agreed and Suki nodded her head in agreement. Naruto couldn't precisely remember what he said or did, but he also confirmed the statement. That's when something strange happened. Kakashi's entire demeanor just suddenly transformed from furious to serene. You pass. I'm proud of the 3 of you. It's true that those who break the rules are scum, but those who would leave behind a friend are even worse than scum, he said cheerfully. That was when he first knew that Suki wasn't just like him because she was lonely like he was. She was also a good person. It was just hidden. Really, really well hidden. Suki could be the most vicious and sarcastic person that he had ever met. Now at 16, he saw that for what it was. A defense mechanism. She didn't want to get close to people because she was afraid of losing them. Well, she's not going to lose me and I'm not going to let her die, he mutters to himself. He was going to find a way to save her. Naruto just wasn't sure how yet. He wasn't going to let Orochimaru kill her though. Naruto was going to keep his promise to Sakura to bring Suki back and then Team 7 would officially be whole again. As the days turned into weeks, Naruto was growing more and more frustrated. They had to find Suki and quickly. That freak was going to take over her body soon. It was driving him crazy. His dreams were becoming more and more disturbing. The blonde wanted so badly to pin the blame squarely on Kurama, but he knew better. Kurama might have been sculpting the scenarios, but he was providing the clay. The Nine Tails wouldn't be able to torment him like this, if he wasn't giving the fox something to work with. This can't be normal. Maybe I should talk to Granny Tsunade about this, but she would freak. Naruto says with a sigh as he remembers his latest dream. He was running in a forest. Naruto knew that someone was nearby, but not who. Whoever it was, they were fast and they were doing a damn good job covering their tracks. Too bad for them, they can't outrun Kurama's nose, he muttered to himself. He found a trail. It wasn't a large footprint and it wasn't tiny. It was indented harshly into the soil, but lopsided. This person was petite in weight, but running fast. He guessed they were a woman. Kakashi and Kiba had taught him a little bit about tracking. Now, he could read footprints with a fair amount of accuracy. That and he finally caught the person's scent. Damn it, he heard a feminine voice mutter in annoyance. Naruto had never given much thought to scents before, but he knew this one. It was hard to explain. This person smelled like an oddly alluring combination of pine trees, roses, and lightning. Idly, he knew that last one didn't make any sense. People couldn't smell like lightning. Did lightning even have a scent? Naruto shook his head and decided it didn't matter. What mattered is that he had to get to Suki. Suki, he called out desperately. Maybe this time, she'd actually listen. Maybe this time, he could convince her to stay. That's all he really wanted. Naruto just wanted her back in the leaf where she was safe and hopefully, where Suki could be happy. Somewhere along the line, this desire had eclipsed everything else. The blonde still wanted to become Hokage, but that was a secondary concern. What mattered most was saving Suki. Naruto, just go, she growled at him, once he finally caught up with her. The fact that she didn't think she needed saving was irrelevant in his mind. There was no way he was letting Orochimaru touch her. He wasn't going to let his best friend die to save that creepy snake. Suki, come on, you don't have to do this. You don't have to stay with him. You can come back to the leaf. We'll find a way to deal with Itachi. I can help you, Naruto said as he reached out for her. Her back was towards him. Suki's hair had grown longer. When she left the leaf, it spilled a few inches below her shoulders. Now, it came to the middle of her back. Suki's hair had always fascinated Naruto. Well, actually, everything about her fascinated him and pissed him off in equal measure. She had lost the midnight blue tint that her hair had when she was a genin. Now it was as black as a raven's feathers. I don't have time for your childish games. I'm going to kill him. Just go back home. You don't belong here. After Itachi is dead, maybe I'll come back to the leaf. My clan is buried there, she muttered. The spiky texture was still the same though. Somehow, it looked spiky and silky at the same time. He had always been curious about what her hair actually felt like. Naruto knew better than to actually try to touch her hair though. That was the fastest way to a Chidori that he knew of. Naruto felt himself growl. He knew that his friend missed her family deeply, but that couldn't be it. That couldn't be the only reason that she would come back to the leaf. Did Team 7 mean nothing to her? Did he mean nothing to At? Nothing at all? Is that really the only reason that you'd come back? Naruto practically snarled at her. He could feel the now familiar sensation of Kurama's chakra lashing around him. His teeth were sharpening and instinctively knew that his eyes were turning crimson red. Damn it, not now. Is there another reason that I should have? Suki mocked him as she continued walking off. Damn her. Why did she always do this? She always tried to leave him behind and ignored him, unless they were fighting. It pissed him off. He wanted to make her acknowledge him for once. Without thinking about it, he slams the young woman into the ground. Naruto knew that attacking someone while their back was turned was a low blow, but he just didn't care at the moment. He was going to get her to come back. If Naruto had to drag her back, he would. Yes, you should want to come back to your friends. For Team 7, something. Suki, the leaf is your home. He screamed at her as he grabbed her by her pretty throat and shook her. Naruto, get off me. She growled at him as she tried to free herself from his grasp. No, not until you listen to what I have to say. You want to kill Itachi, right? I can help you with that. The Akatsuki want the tailed beasts. I have one. They'll come looking for me sooner or later. He yelled at her. It was infuriating. Naruto had her pinned by the throat and Suki didn't look like she cared at all. She looked annoyed, but that was about it. He just wanted to get a reaction out of her. He wanted some small sign that she still cared about the leaf. That she cared about him, even if it was just a little one. That's true. Sooner or later, the Akatsuki will come for you. I have no way of knowing if they'll send Itachi or someone else after you though. Oh, and Naruto, stop the act. We're adults now. You don't have to play pretend anymore. She told him as she radiated Chidori along her body and shocked him off of her. Suki then slammed him against a tree and kept him pinned with one hand. With her other, she draws her sword. Instead of attacking him, she presses it against his throat and leaned in to whisper something in his ear. You don't have to pretend that this is about Team 7. I'm sure that you are upset that Kakashi and Sakura are upset that I'm gone, but we both know that isn't the real reason why you chase me. You're jealous, she told him with a smirk. Jealous? Jealous of what? That snake freak? You've got to be kidding me. Why would I be jealous of him? Naruto snapped at her. That I went with him. That he can get me the power I need to kill Itachi and you can't. Like I said, I might come back to the leaf later. Not until he's dead though. She began to say. Naruto was about to cut her off, but she kept talking. The more that the Uchiha spoke, the more angry he got. Somehow, he had to talk some sense into her. This was crazy. I'll do whatever it takes to punish him. If that means giving my body to Orochimaru, then I just don't care. This is my decision, not yours. If you can't accept that, you should just tell me so. I'll slit your throat and make this easier on both of us. She told him. That was when something inside Naruto snapped. In the blink of an eye, he freed himself from Suki's pin and got her on her back. There was something very satisfying about seeing the look of surprise on her face. I'll help you kill him. You don't need Orochimaru. He growled at her and gave in to the impulse to bite her neck. He bit her hard. Naruto didn't really know why, it just felt right. There was something exciting about feeling her underneath him and hearing her gasp like that. His bite somehow transferred chakra into her. A mark formed on her neck, overwhelming what Orochimaru had given her. Naruto, what did you just do? She whispered. I don't know. he answered as the chakra, fangs, and red eyes receded. That had been the entire dream. He didn't know why, but now he dreamt about Suki a lot. More often than not, he ended up biting her or pinning her. Fighting her was nothing new, but the desire to bite her was. That wasn't normal. Naruto, are you okay? Sakura asks her friend. Yeah, I'm fine. I guess I just spaced out there for a minute. Granny Tsunade is putting together a bigger retrieval team, right? Naruto replies and Sakura nods in confirmation. Pretty much all of the rookies are going. We have to move quickly. We're running out of time. Sakura says. Naruto could see it in Sakura's eyes. She was losing hope. The pink-haired woman didn't actually think that they were going to save Suki. He was determined to prove her wrong though. I know. We'll find a way though. There has to be a way. He whispers to himself. Meanwhile Suki was still in the Sound Village. She was training and being pushed to her breaking point. Orochimaru had decided that he wanted to see how she would do against 1,000 opponents. She knew that she could have easily won this, if she wanted to use lethal force. Suki didn't though. These people hadn't done anything to her. They weren't Itachi. They didn't deserve her rage. Not really. Chidori. She screams out as she sends another lightning attack flying at a group of them. She wasn't aiming for vital spots, but it would knock him out. It would knock him out cold. Unfortunately, she didn't have Naruto's chakra reserves and she hadn't forgotten Kakashi's warning. There was a limit to how much she could throw around her trademark attack. That limit was increasing almost daily, but not fast enough to handle this many opponents. She was probably going to have to resort to taijutsu at some point. That was fine though. She wasn't a cold-blooded murderer. How disappointing. Orochimaru murmurs as he watches her fight next to Kabuto. Suki was clearly making great strides. Sadly, she still held on to some childhood notion of mercy. Oh, it wasn't as deeply ingrained in her as it was in her former teammates, but it was still there. It was still there enough to hold her back. We're going to have to press her harder. A deal is a deal. When she kills Itachi, we can preserve his body. He can be your vessel after her. Kabuto says. Orochimaru nods in agreement. Yes, a deal was a deal. Besides, the Sannin couldn't deny that he would enjoy seeing the life leave Itachi's eyes. They had been in the Akatsuki together. This was personal. We're going to have to amp up her training. Physical and emotional. Physical, she's almost there. She's still too soft-hearted though. We'll fix that. We just have to figure out what her trigger is. Orochimaru murmurs. Her trigger is obvious. It's Naruto. I haven't mentioned this to you before because it was irrelevant. I believe she has feelings for him. Strong ones. That's why he's still alive. If you want to upset her to make her stronger, threaten him somehow. The silver-haired medic says. Orochimaru tries to suppress his irritation at that news. Suki carried a torch for the loudmouthed blonde. It was only natural that she'd be attracted to someone her own age, but he was disappointed. He would have thought that she had better taste. You said that these feelings were strong? He asks. It would seem so. What are you thinking, Lord Orochimaru? He asks as Suki slams her fist into the face of some poor son of a bitch that they had recruited to be fodder. Well, it seems such a waste to let her die before she restores her clan and the child would grow up to be a good vessel. That in Naruto Uzumaki is a Jinchuriki. If we can harness the chakra of the 9 tails, we would be unstoppable. Orochimaru says with a smirk. Kabuto raises an eyebrow. He had a pretty good idea where this was going and he certainly didn't like it. Orochimaru was out of his mind. My lord, are you suggesting that we should bring the boy here? Kabuto inquires. Perhaps. The power of the 9 tails is certainly tempting. He would likely do whatever we wanted, as long as he was assured of Suki's safety. Orochimaru says with a smirk. I don't think this is wise. Naruto doesn't think logically. If you offered him the deal, he wouldn't take it. He would just storm into our village and try to take her back to the Leaf Village. You can't reason with a child like him, especially one with his power. He has gotten better at wielding the beast's chakra. Kabuto warns him. Orochimaru holds up his hand, waving off Kabuto's concerns. The idea did have merit. The 9 tails' power was almost limitless. Perhaps it was the key to unlocking true immortality. That and he could take Itachi's body. Suki could restore her clan with the blonde. Thus Naruto would be loyal to him because Suki was. Eventually, their child or children would become his future vessels. It all fit together rather nicely. Silence, Kabuto. It looks as though she's done, Orochimaru says as he walks over to a panting Suki. Her every muscle in her body was screaming at her in protest. Suki's vision was blurred and she was struggling to breathe. Surely, this type of training would make her strong enough to kill Itachi. She was pushing herself to her limits. Why didn't you kill them? He demands. I didn't have to kill them to beat them and they hadn't done anything to me. She says simply, one day, that childish notion of mercy is going to get you killed. I keep telling you that because it's true. Still I can't deny that you have grown much stronger. Itachi's end is certainly within sight. You should rest for the rest of the night. All the strength in the world will do you no good if you kill yourself of chakra exhaustion. He informs her. Suki simply shrugs. She didn't have to justify her actions to him. He was a means to an end. While Orochimaru might care for her in his own sick way, the feeling was far from mutual. As long as my body lasts long enough for the transfer, I don't see what you are complaining about. Suki mutters as she heads off. Soon enough she finds the hot spring in the village. After making sure that no one else was around and forming a few shadow clones as lookouts, she quickly strips and gets in. Suki sighs in contentment. The hot water felt so good against her sore muscles. She sighs as she realizes they wouldn't be sore if the massacre never happened. She'd likely still be in the Leaf Village right now or on a mission with Team 7. Naruto would likely be oblivious, but if things were different she would have confessed her feelings towards her. Maybe he would have returned them. In that case, they would have been a normal couple. Walking around the village together, training, kissing, and likely going to the ramen shop. She muses. That was assuming that he saw her as more than just a friend in the first place. Naruto was different than most people. It was entirely possible that he really was putting himself through all of this just because of friendship. No one else would have done that, but this was Naruto. It doesn't matter though. Kabuto was right about one thing. It's never going to happen. She says with a sigh. Unbeknownst to Suki, she wasn't the only Uchiha at the moment pondering what could have been. Itachi was as well. Well, he was pondering the matter between bloody coughs. Itachi, are you sure you are up to this mission? Kisame asks. The blue-skinned man had actually grown fond of his partner in a way. Sure, Itachi wasn't much of a talker. He was still sane though, and that was a pretty rare trait in the Akatsuki. I'll be fine, Itachi mutters as he takes another pill. The pills were buying him time, but he was running out of it. Itachi was living on borrowed time for several reasons. His illness was running its course. Without proper treatment, he likely had a couple months. It wouldn't be exaggerating to say he might have a month left to live though. He needed to find Suki. His sister could kill him. Then she would be the hero. The Leaf would accept her back with open arms and his suffering could finally end. You know, for a ninja, you're a surprisingly bad liar. You don't look fine to me. Kisame says. How he wished that things had turned out differently. Surely, something could have done. Something could have prevented the massacre. By the time he came of age though, it was too late. He had to choose between his clan and the Leaf as a whole. In the end, he had decided that potentially averted another great ninja war was more important than the love he had for his family. I'll manage. I always do. Since when did you start pretending to care? Itachi asks in amusement. Peace was more important than his love for his family. It had even been more important than his feelings for Izumi. There was just one thing that it hadn't been more important than Suki. He couldn't kill her. She was too young. The 7-year-old had no idea what her clan was plotting. Suki had been completely innocent at the time of the coup and massacre. So he had pleaded and managed to spare her life, and for that, she wanted to kill him. Good point. Well, let's get going then. Kisame says as the two of them head off. That was fine with Itachi though. He wanted to die. He would welcome death. Death by suicide was dishonorable though. Death by Suki's hand would be fine by him. Revenge was the only thing that he could really offer her at this point. He couldn't tell her the truth. The most important thing in his mind was that she would never know the truth. That would be his dying wish. Meanwhile, back in the Leaf, the Suki retrieval team was ready. Naruto was excited. For the first time in a long time, he felt really hopeful. Maybe they would get her back. Alright, let's do this, Kiba says excitedly. Hinata nods her head in agreement. The Hyuga heiress was shy, but Naruto knew that she was a good friend. She had volunteered for the mission. He just didn't know why. The power of youth is on our side. Lee chimes in and Naruto rubs the back of his head sheepishly. He really didn't understand the whole power of youth thing. Bushy brows and bushy brows sensei were cool. Sometimes they were just a little too eccentric for most people to understand though. Right, exactly. Shikamaru? He asks. Shikamaru wasn't on the team by choice. Well, at least Naruto didn't think he was. Apparently, the lazy ninja didn't really care for Suki all that much. He had just decided that she was a leaf ninja and thus that garnered some degree of automatic loyalty. He wasn't going to let her die just because she was a prissy princess. Seriously, that's what the Cloud Watcher called her. Naruto couldn't exactly disagree with the princess label. She was hardly prissy though. He clearly never seen her train. She was vicious. The Sound Village is based in the Rice Nation. We should start there, though it's possible that they might not be there. Orochimaru obviously has many hideouts scattered all over. If that snake stayed in one place all the time, the leaf would have captured him years ago. He reasons. Naruto nods. That was a good point. Well, they'd start in the Rice Nation then. It was better than nothing, and right now, that is basically what he had. Got it. Anything else, guys? Are we good on supplies? Food, water, medical supplies, clothes, weapons, and so forth. Naruto asks. We're definitely good on food. I made sure of that. Choji informs him. We've got enough weapons for an actual war. You don't have to worry about that much. Tenten says with a wink. Neji nods in confirmation. Well, if Neji thought they were all set, they probably were. He was a genius like Shikamaru, but he wasn't anywhere near as lazy. Really, his biggest problem was that he had allowed that destiny crap to run his life. Naruto was pleased to report that that was gradually changing though. We should get moving, Shino suggests, and the others nod in agreement. With that, the remaining members of the Rookie 9 and Guys team took off. It was a long journey to the Sound Village, but Naruto knew they would get there. He just hoped that they wouldn't be too late. He knew that they were racing towards the end of the 3-month timeline. Maybe Jiraiya's second guess would be more accurate. If they had 6 months originally, that would be better. Not great, but better. Either way, they were rapidly running out of time and had to hurry. What are we going to do if they are at the Sound Village? Sakura asks. What do you mean? We grab Suki and go. Naruto replies as if that was obvious. It's not going to be that simple. They won't just let us waltz in and out of there. We would have to sneak by them or incapacitate them somehow. That's also assuming that Suki is going to come willingly with us. That's far from a safe bet. Neji points out. Ino sighs and nods. That was what she was afraid of. Suki was strong and she was stubborn. The only person who might be more stubborn than her was Naruto, and even that was a bit dicey. What are you suggesting? She asks Neji. If we end up in the Sound Village, Ino should take over one of the Sound Villagers' body. Lure Suki away. Then we can grab her and go. The lavender-eyed man says. That's brilliant. That might actually work. Naruto says brightly, ignoring Neji's twitches. The Hyuga man didn't know why Naruto had to sound so surprised that his plan might work. He was a Jonin, after all. Neji Hyuga had lots of good plans. HMPF. A few days later, Suki tenses. She could feel it. Naruto's chakra. She wasn't naturally a sensor, but he was close enough that she could sense him. Suki could sense him and his friends. Damn it, can Orochimaru be moved? Suki asks Kabuto. It'd be risky. His physical condition is deteriorating rapidly. Even walking is becoming quite the struggle. Why do you ask? Kabuto replies. Damn it, as much as she would love to see Orochimaru's death, she still had a lot that she could learn from him. She needed to know everything he did and more if she was going to defeat Itachi. That meant that he had to be kept alive. We've been staying here for a while. Normally, we change location more often to prevent detection. That's why I asked. I want to know that we can evacuate quickly in the worst case scenario. She replies. Very well. In that event, I would hide him or use body flicker technique to transport him. You don't have to worry about that much. Though I'm certain Lord Orochimaru will be touched by your concern. Kabuto informs her and Suki nods as she heads off. Damn it, Naruto was coming and he had brought a team. She wasn't entirely certain how many he had brought with him, but it was bigger than the usual squad. It wouldn't be enough though. There is no way that this will be anything other than a suicide mission if I don't try to knock some sense into him. She mutters as she cautiously begins making her way towards where the chakra signatures were the strongest. Meanwhile with the retrieval team, Shikamaru groans. He could only hope that somehow Neji's plan would work. It was a good plan in theory, but they were still attacking a village filled with criminals. That was never a smart move. Everyone, lower your chakra as much as you can. We don't want them to know that we are coming. Ino, find your sound villager. We'll watch your body while you lure away Suki. He says. There were murmurs of agreement and confirmation. The cloud lover was relieved when he felt them lower their chakra levels drastically. Now, he was confident no one would sense them unless they were really trying. It would take a skilled sensor to notice them and find their location. That's when Ino made her move. She cautiously enters the sound village. The blonde felt like she was entering the lion's den. Well, more specifically, she was entering a den of vipers. Her heart was pounding with every step. You there? Who are you? A sound villager demands. Sorry about this, the leaf woman says as she performs the technique that would allow her to take over their body. The blonde's body slumps and Kiba immediately rushes over to catch her. Damn, it was a powerful and useful technique, but it came at a cost. Her body was defenseless while mind jumped or whatever Ino called it. She quickly sets about locating Suki. She knew that she didn't have much time. Ino had to get the other woman back to her friends before she couldn't hold the jutsu anymore. Quick, Lord Orochimaru wants to see you now. She tells Suki. The blonde couldn't help but notice the wariness and skepticism in the other woman's eyes. Good, that was a good sign. Suki didn't really want to be here. Alright, she says simply as she walks with Ino. When Suki saw that she was being led outside the gates of the village, her eyes narrow. Orochimaru was practically bedridden. He wouldn't be outside the village. Trap. This was a trap. She bites her lower lip, but Suki decides to go with it. For the moment, she had no other choice. If she resisted, the other sound villagers would notice if a battle broke out. That would spell the end for the retrieval squad. That was surprisingly clever and subtle. Taking over a sound villager's body to get me to come with you was a smart move. Whose idea was it? I know it wasn't Naruto's. That's far too subtle. She says as her eyes narrow accusingly and her Sharingan activates. It was mine, though that is besides the point. Neji says. Shadow clone jutsu. Shikamaru says as he attacks Suki with shadows. Suki barely manages to dodge and glares at him. Damn it, Naruto by himself would have been a challenge. These weren't grunts that Orochimaru had hired for her training purposes. Every one of the rookies had at least one useful ability. If they didn't, they wouldn't have been assigned to this mission. She was outnumbered. There was still a chance that she could win, but not without using enough chakra to alert the other sound villagers that something was going on. If that happened, they were all done for. Shikamaru, I suggest that you don't try that again. Right now, you're all just annoying, but I don't want to kill you. If you leave now, that will be the end of that. She says. While Shikamaru was attacking Suki, Naruto places a seal by the entrance of the sound village. It was part of the Flying Thunder God technique. Thankfully, Pervy Sage had taught him how to do it. I need something else. The sound villagers are constantly on the move. If we can figure out where all their hideouts are and get to them quickly, maybe then we can save her. Naruto recalled saying desperately to Jiraiya, well, this isn't something that I would teach anyone. It can require a massive amount of chakra, depending on how far away you are going. There is the Flying Thunder God technique. I assume that you are familiar with the body flicker technique? The white-haired ninja began. Naruto nodded. Yeah, he knew about that one. He'd seen Kakashi and Suki do it before. He hadn't really tried it much himself, but it looked easy enough to do. Yeah, I know about the body flicker technique. What's that got to do with anything though? You can only go so far with it. He asked. The Flying Thunder God technique is essentially the body flicker technique with more power behind it. You make a seal and can transport yourself to that location, anytime you want. The seal never goes away. There is a catch though. The further away your target is, the more chakra you need. For someone with your chakra reserves, that shouldn't be an issue though. He explained simply. That sounds awesome. Naruto exclaimed and Jiraiya nodded. It took a while to properly teach Naruto to perform the technique. He had the chakra. He had that in spades. It was getting him to focus long enough to learn how to make the seal properly that was the issue. After many attempts, the blonde finally managed it. He grinned to himself. This was going to be a useful new trick. The pervy sage was good for something other than spying on women's bathhouses after all. Suki, come with us. Is way no one has to get hurt. Do you really think that you can beat all of us? The other sound villagers will hear a fight. It'll be a war. Hinata manages to ask. Suki tilts her head to the side. She was actually rather impressed with Hinata. That was the least she had heard the other woman stutter since well ever. Maybe the Hyuga princess was finally gaining some confidence. Unfortunately for her, things weren't that simple. All of you should just leave now. Suki says. You can't expect me to just let you stay with that creep. He's going to kill you, Suki. Naruto growls at her. I'm not asking for your permission, but I guess this is between you and me. Suki says as she rushes at the blonde and grabs onto him, performing the body flicker technique and teleporting them a short distance away from the sound village. It wasn't too far, but it was far enough. Suki was certain that no one inside Orochimaru's village would be able to sense them from here. Naruto was apparently going to be stupid. She didn't have any choice but to get him out of there. I don't know why you have to be so stubborn. Do you seriously want to die? He snarls at her. Suki felt herself shiver. She had never actually been afraid of Naruto before. That sound was a different matter though. That sounded far more animal than man. I don't want to die. I'm just using Orochimaru, she tells him as she unsheathes her sword. She was going to have to hurt him. Suki would have to hurt him enough that he wouldn't be able to follow her right away. One of his teammates would surely find him. The trick was finding a way to hurt him badly enough that the blonde wouldn't be able to find her, but not fatally. She had to strike the right balance. That's funny. It looks to me like it's the other way around. Naruto snaps at her. Sakura was a medic now. She had read about that in the bingo book. Her former teammate could patch Naruto up. Suki knew that she could. Well, maybe you need your eyes checked. Naruto, I don't have time to play with you. Go home. She thunders at him. That was the wrong thing to say. That was almost exactly what she had said to him in Naruto's dream. Of course, Suki didn't know that. That was why she was completely unprepared for Naruto's fury. Too bad. You're coming home. I don't care if I have to bring you back limping. I'm not going to let that freak touch you. The Jinchuriki screams at her as he lunges at Suki so quickly that he became almost a blur. He was now surrounded by a malicious chakra. The Nine Tails chakra. Suki recognized it instantly. That kind of chakra definitely wasn't Naruto's and she had felt it in the past. Why are you so obsessed with me? She demands once her former teammate pins her to the ground. He was like a mountain. No matter how hard she kicked or punched, Naruto wouldn't get off her. When did he become this strong? Suki knew that Naruto was now bigger than her. In reality, he had probably always had a slight edge in physical strength. She had more than compensated for that with her speed though and her better chakra control. Now, she wasn't so sure that was the case. Because you're my friend and I'm not going to stay in the leaf and wait for you to return in a casket. He tells her. His eyes were inhuman. Gone were the beautiful blue, kind eyes that she associated with him. The adorable whisker-like markings on his cheeks were now more jagged and almost feral in nature. His teeth were now more like fangs. Clearly, something was going on with the Nine Tails. Suki just didn't know what. Naruto, get the fuck off me. She hisses at him. No, I'm taking you back. We can find a way to deal with Itachi together. You don't need to be here. The other ninja cedes at her. Suki knew that she couldn't get Naruto off of her through the usual methods. She was going to have to fight dirty. With that in mind, the last Uchiha radiates Chidori all along her body at a high voltage. She turned it up to the max. Her theory was that Nine Tails chakra would likely provide him some protection, but hopefully he'd be shocked enough to let her go. It was the best chance that she had at the moment. Naruto howls in pain as he jumps off her. Had she actually attacked him at full capacity? Naruto wasn't really sure how high of a voltage she could produce with the Chidori. He knew one thing though. Without Kurama, he probably would have knocked unconscious or possibly even killed by that move. I told you to get off of me. You should have listened. Suki warns him as she eyes him warily. She hated that it had come to this. Why couldn't he just listen? Why was it so hard for Naruto to understand that she needed to kill Itachi and that this was the best way to do that? And you should have listened to me, he says as he slams her to the ground once more. The two of them were so furious with each other that neither of them thought to use actual chakra attacks. This was far more primal than that. A flurry of punches, kicks, and even bites. They rolled around and around on the ground. Suki could feel dirt and stones cover her clothes and skin. Sometimes the stones even cut. She didn't care though. One way or another, she was going to make Naruto understand. Suki was going to save his life. Take your friends and go. I'm not going back until Itachi's buried. She snarls at him. That did it. Naruto wasn't really sure why, but that snarl really infuriated him on some level. He goes to bite her neck, just like in the dream. His teeth bite down and Suki tries to pull away from him. That's when the other members of the retrieval team showed up. Suki flickers off. Naruto could taste some of her blood in his mouth. Naruto. Lee calls out as he rushes over to help his friend. Are you alright? Sakura asks desperately as she runs over to her friend. Yeah, I think so. We tore into each other pretty good, but I don't think anything's actually broken. Naruto says as the reddish-orange chakra around him begins to recede and his facial features return to normal. We have to get out of here. Suki likely went to warn the other villagers about our presence. Shino says. Naruto slams his fist into a tree, shattering it. He couldn't believe it. She had gotten away again. The others weren't going to want to fight an entire village. He wasn't going to let Orochimaru keep her, but they likely didn't want to go on a suicide mission. That's what they would think attacking the sound was. A suicide mission. Fine, let's go. At least now, we know that she's still alive. We can come back later. He says. I'm sorry, Naruto. Sakura whispers as she places her hand on his shoulder. I know. We'll find a way to get her back though. I know we will. He says brightly. It was a forced cheerfulness. Naruto just hoped that the others wouldn't notice that. Thankfully, they seemed more concerned about getting out of there before Suki could alert the other sound villagers than his faked grin. The power of youth will never be defeated. This is only temporary. Lee assures him as they all race off. A short while later, Suki sighs in the sound as she heads back into her room. She knew that Naruto had bitten her and that he had drawn blood. The raven-haired woman just had to know the extent of the injury and thus she was looking in a mirror when Kabuto came in. I suppose now I know why you wanted to know about the evacuation plans so badly. Why didn't you tell us that the Leaf had sent a team? I can see their tracks. You must have fought them off somehow. Is that why you are bleeding? He demands. It's just a scratch. I fought them off. They aren't going to be coming back. Suki tells him. Kabuto sighs. Honestly, he could understand why Orochimaru wanted her to be his vessel. The Sharingan was certainly an attractive bloodline, but this woman was impossible. She was ridiculously talented as a ninja, but she was also stubborn and completely untrustworthy. Let me see that scratch. An infection can turn even a minor injury into a life-threatening one. The silver-haired medic reminds her and Suki nods in agreement. She hesitates for a moment, but walks over to Kabuto. She didn't trust him, but the Uchiha knew that he would never knowingly attack her. Orochimaru wanted her body too much for that to a possibility. He bit you? Kabuto asks in disbelief as he examines her neck. I don't know why you sound so surprised. Orochimaru bit me, she says with a shrug. That was different. He was placing a curse mark on you. This is something else entirely. You're fortunate that it wasn't a successful marking. He informs her. Suki raises an eyebrow. It wasn't a successful marking? What did Kabuto mean by that? What was a marking? Stop beating around the bush. It's annoying. What's a marking and how do you know that it wasn't successful? She demands. Jinchuriki are different than most people when it comes to intimacy. Sometimes, the demon's animalistic instincts can take over. If the host has feelings for someone, they might mark them. A mark is a bite they place on their intended's neck and infuse with chakra. It becomes a permanent mark. A symbol of their love. Along with the mark comes some advantages and disadvantages. He begins warily. Suki blinks. If she understood Kabuto correctly, Naruto had almost given her the demonic version of a wedding ring. He might have done so unconsciously to boot. So you're saying that it's like a wedding ring, demon style? She whispers. Essentially. It's far more than that though. It creates a mental link between the mates. The mates will be able to sense each other, regardless of distance, and if they concentrate, feel what the other feels. It also grants them the ability to share chakra. Unfortunately, it also links their life force. If one dies, it's likely the other will. If the second mate somehow survives, they tend to go insane. Kabuto warns her. Suki blinks. Most of that sounded good. She could certainly live without the insanity or I love you to death part though. Is he aware of what he tried to do to me? Suki asks. That's less certain. Sometimes, it happens instinctively. Other times, it's a conscious decision. The silver-haired medic explains. The last Uchiha smiles. Whether it was consciously or unconsciously, Naruto returned her feelings. Well, on some level he did, anyway. That's when she frowns. She couldn't let him mark her though. At least not until she knew that he knew why he wanted to do it and she killed Itachi. If something went wrong during her battle with Itachi, she wasn't going to let Naruto go down with her or lead him down the path of madness. You're right, I got off rather lucky. She says, I would avoid Naruto to the best of your abilities. As much as I am loath to move Orochimaru in his condition, I'm afraid that we have no choice. The leaf is going to strike again and this time, they will send out a bigger force. He says with a heavy sigh. Alright, I'll start packing, she says, and Kabuto nods his head in agreement as he heads off. Presumably, he was going to warn Orochimaru. Suki didn't want the snake to know about the marking thing, but she knew that his faithful lapdog was going to tell him one way or another. Sadly, she needed Kabuto's vast medical knowledge to take down Itachi. She couldn't just kill him. It was annoying, really. Meanwhile, Kabuto arrives in Orochimaru's room. He had to inform the Sannin about everything. He was loath to move his lord when he was in such a weakened state, but there was no other choice. Lord Orochimaru, we must go. The leaf sent a team to retrieve Suki. They know that we are here. Suki managed to change them off. I also have rather interesting news in regards to the 9 tails. Kabuto says. Orochimaru glances at Kabuto. Damn it, he certainly didn't want to be moved. There wasn't much time before he would have to perform the transfer. He was already so weak. What did you find out about the 9 tails? He asks. He tried to mark Suki. It's unclear if that was a conscious or unconscious choice though. Kabuto replies. Orochimaru raises an eyebrow. Now that was an unexpected development. It was just all the more reason to capture Naruto and bring him here though. Excellent. Not only will we be able to study a tailed beast, but we'll be able to study a full mating. He observes with a smirk. My thoughts, exactly. The silver-haired medic agrees. Elsewhere, the retrieval team had made camp for the night. Naruto volunteered to take the first watch and waits for everyone to fall asleep. He quickly makes a clone and uses the flying thunder god technique. He grins when he arrived back just outside the entrance of the Sound Village. He knew that this technique would come in handy one day. Now, he just had to find Suki. If he could grab her, he could teleport them back to the leaf. He had a seal there that would take them to his apartment. It would take a lot of chakra to pull off, but he knew that he could manage. This place is way creepy. He mutters under his breath as he tries to sense Suki's chakra signature. Fortunately, it was hard to figure out which building was the main one. Orochimaru was too much of an egomaniac not to make his power known. Naruto heads inside. She has to be inside somewhere. I know it, the blonde says as he warily enters the building. He felt like he was in the middle of some horror movie. Naruto expected a monster to jump out at him any time. That didn't matter though. The only thing that really mattered was getting his friend out of here as fast as possible. That's when Suki stiffens. She felt Naruto's chakra nearby. She immediately heads towards it. Naruto, do you have a death wish? She demands as she pushes him against the wall. Not really, but apparently you do. Let's get you out of here. He says. Oh, I don't think any of that will be necessary. Naruto, Orochimaru has an offer that he would like to make you. I think that you'll both find this compromise agreeable. Kabuto says as he walks over to them. He heard the sounds of a fight in the hallway. Naturally, he left to see what was going on. Imagine his surprise when he discovered Naruto had just willingly right into their hands. A compromise? Naruto asks in disbelief. Naruto, get out of here now. Don't listen to him. Suki tells him. She felt her blood run cold in terror. Suki had no idea if Naruto really knew about marking, but she knew what Kabuto did. She knew exactly what he was up to and she wasn't going to let it happen. One way or another, she had to get Naruto out of the sound. She just wasn't exactly sure how she was going to do that yet. A few minutes later, Orochimaru smirks. This was a most wondrous opportunity. Not only would he have an Uchiha as his next vessel, he might very well soon possess the power of a Jinchuriki. Naruto, this doesn't need to end in tragedy. You want to ensure that Suki's safe and so do I. She's far too valuable to me to allow anything to happen to her. What I propose is very simple. You would stay in the sound. We find Itachi. He can become my next vessel and then Suki can return to the leaf with you. He says. Naruto's eyes narrow. That sounded a little too perfect. Sure, Orochimaru would probably take Itachi's body as fast as he would Suki's. Why would he just give her up though? That didn't make any sense. Leave him out of this. Suki snarls at Orochimaru. Now, Suki. This is Naruto's decision. Just as you decided to come to me willingly, he should also be extended the same courtesy. The Sannin coos at her. Suki felt white-hot rage rushing through her veins. Naruto didn't belong in the sound. She had to kill Itachi and she would pay whatever price was necessary to do that, but Naruto didn't have to. Just go back home. You don't belong here. Suki tells Naruto. You did manage to draw blood, but the mark didn't take. If you want her as your mate, you'll have to bite harder next time. The chakra exchange has to take place, for it to be a true mating. Kurama says. Naruto blinks in confusion. He didn't know what Kurama was talking about, but it sounded important. Was that why he wanted to bite Suki so much? He wanted to mark her? What did that mean? Marking? Mating? What are you talking about? You aren't making any sense? What do you think about Orochimaru's offer? He replies. It would be easier just to go along with it. Once you are alone with the Uchiha, you can mark her and then use the Flying Thunder God technique to return to the leaf. As for mating, I'll explain that later. Right now, you need to keep your eyes on the Sannin. The Nine Tails reminds him. Naruto frowns as he considers Kyuubi's advice. He did have a point. It might just be easier to stay and grab Suki at the first opportunity. Then he could take her home. Oh, she'd be mad at him, but it was for her own good. He couldn't seriously let her stay here. Not with Orochimaru. He wasn't going to lose her again. Naruto remembered what happened during the fight with Haku once more and shivers. No, he never wanted to feel that way again. One way or another, he was going to save her. He's right about one thing. It's my choice, Naruto says. Yes, which is why you should go back to the leaf. Naruto, I can handle this. This has nothing to do with you. Suki tells him. That irritated him. Why couldn't she just let him help her? Why did she always have to act like she had to do everything on her own? I'm staying. It's the smarter deal. Orochimaru gets Itachi, so he'll get his vessel. You'll avenge your clan and you can come home. Naruto reasons. Are you out of your mind? Go. I don't want you here. Suki growls at Naruto as she charges at him, forming a Chidori. Your mate is going to be a handful. The sooner you mark her, the better. The Nine Tails informs him. Naruto have time to formulate a response to that little gem though. He was too busy, dodging Suki's attack. His friend really didn't want him to stay here. The blonde decides to take that as a good sign. On some level, Suki realized that this place was bad news. She knew that it was dangerous to be here. That and she feisty Uchiha didn't want him here. She didn't want him here because she knew that Naruto could get hurt or even killed at the sound. Suki still cared about him. I said that I'm staying. Naruto says as he grabs her hand and slams her into the wall. He quickly grabs her hands and wraps them around her back. Suki's hands were lethal. Whether it was taijutsu or ninjutsu, they could prove deadly. He needed to make sure that she couldn't use them or her Sharingan on him. Suki tries to slam her elbow into Naruto's stomach. Unfortunately, his grip was too strong. It was just like before. When had Naruto gotten this much of an edge on her when it came to brute force? Was it the Nine Tails' influence? Naruto, let go of me. She hisses at him. Not until you realize that I'm staying. I'm not going back without you. I meant it when I said that I didn't deserve to be Hokage if I couldn't save my friend. He tells her. Suki didn't know whether to laugh or cry at that moment. Naruto really did believe that. He thought that it was that simple. The good guys would always win in his mind. The blonde just didn't understand the way the real world worked, but she did. I'm late, she said to herself as she raced back inside her family's district. She had stayed late at the academy. Suki had been practicing her kunai throwing. Her goal was to become a powerful ninja, just like her big brother, and maybe then her father would acknowledge her too. Like he did Itachi. Now though, she was late. Suki knew that she was going to be in big trouble. That was why she ran as fast as she could through the district and towards her house. It's so quiet, Suki whispered to herself, slowly slowing down. It was too quiet. It was a bit late, but it wasn't that late. There should still be some people out in the streets, or at least some lights should be on. Where was everyone? Cautiously, she approached her house and entered. She looked around, but didn't see anyone. Suki didn't see her mother, father, or brother. Feeling more frightened, she decided to check her parents' bedroom. That's where she found them, laying in a pool of their own blood. "Mother, father, wake up," she screamed as threw herself on their bodies and tried desperately to wake them up. Her young mind didn't want to believe that they were actually dead. Despite all the blood, she thought that maybe she could save them somehow. She screamed and screamed for help. "They aren't going to wake up. They're dead," she heard a familiar voice say. "Itachi, who did this?" she asked. "I did. I was the one who killed them and the rest of our clan," he told her, and her eyes widened in horror. That couldn't be right. Her big brother wouldn't do that. This couldn't be happening. It couldn't possibly be true. Why? Suki demanded, tears flowing freely down her young face. "To test my limits," he told her, and Suki felt an unfamiliar emotion bubble up inside her. It was dark and hot. It hurt. It wasn't just sadness, it was something else. It was hatred. For the first time in her young life, she knew what it truly felt like to hate someone. "To test your limits? That's the reason you butchered every single member of our clan?" The Uchiha girl yelled at him. "Yes. You're pathetic. You're not worth killing. One day though, you might be. Nurse your hatred. Let it make you stronger. Then come find me. Maybe you'll be Roth fighting one day," he said as he used a jutsu on her that she had never seen before. When she woke the next day in the hospital, she overheard the medics talking. Her family was gone. They were never coming back, but she was going to avenge them. Suki was going to find Itachi and she was going to make him pay for what he did to their clan. She would avenge them. The world doesn't work like that. You can't always get what you want. Go back to the leaf. She snarls at him. Naruto watches as Suki became practically rabid. It was like trying to keep a tigress pinned to the wall or something. She kept trying to free herself from his hold, but he wasn't going to let it happen. This time, he was going to save her. "Maybe not, but I'm not going to give up. He offered me a chance to stay and I'm taking it. I'm not leaving you behind," he tells her. "Suki, he's made his decision. You should respect it," Orochimaru says gleefully. If Suki hadn't been pinned to the wall, she would have punched Orochimaru. Wait, it had worked once before. Maybe she could shock Naruto off of her again. Her chakra is beginning to spike. She's going to attempt a Chidori. "Knock her out," Kurama says. Naruto quickly aims a swift blow at Suki. It was just hard enough to render her unconscious, but not to cause permanent damage. He sighs as he catches her in his arms. "Why do you have to be so stubborn?" Naruto whispers. "Women are like that. Come Naruto, there is much that you have to learn," Orochimaru says with a smirk. Naruto tries to fight back the impulse to attack Orochimaru. He knew that the man was weak. He needed the transfer soon. Somehow though, he was standing and walking. The blonde doubted that would be the case for long though. "Later, I'm going to find someplace safe for her to rest," he insists. Orochimaru smirks. Ah yes. It was all going according to plan. Clearly, a mating was going to happen soon. He had already tried to bite her. It was only a matter of time. "Very well. I'll have Kabuto show you to her room," he says as he heads back to his own. He was growing far too weak. They would need to perform a transfer and quickly. For now though, he needed his rest. "Follow me," Kabuto says simply. Naruto does so. He was still carrying Suki in his arms. It wasn't lost on him that he was carrying her bridal style. If Suki woke up right now, he was sure that she would have tried to kill him. "You may share a room with her. Lord Orochimaru figures that the two of you will want to be close to each other," he says. "Yeah, thanks," Naruto says as he gives Kabuto his best death glare. At that moment, Naruto found himself envious of Suki. No one had a better glare than her. She could have scared anyone with that trademark dirty look of hers. Unfortunately, he just had to make do with what nature gave him for the moment. Thankfully, it worked. Kabuto nods at him and heads off. The second he was out of sight, Naruto lays Suki down on the bed and shuts the door behind Four Eyes. "Soundproof the room. She's going to be furious when she wakes," the Nine Tails points out. "Yeah, good point." Naruto agrees as he does exactly that and waits for Suki to wake up. Meanwhile back in the Leaf Village, Tsunade groans as most of the Rookie 9 and Guy's team give her their report. This wasn't good news at all. "So you encountered Suki Uchiha, but she escaped?" she demands. "Yes, she flickered back into the village. We had to leave. Otherwise, we would have been fighting the entire Sound Village, Ino says. Tsunade sighs and nods. She couldn't exactly argue with the other blonde there. That wouldn't have ended well for them. Wait, where's Naruto? Tsunade thunders at them. That's when every other member of the Rookie 9 and Guy's team look around for Naruto. Damn it, he wasn't with them. Oh no, he must have gone back for her. Sakura cries out in terror. Was Naruto trying to get himself killed? Sakura knew that he wanted to get Suki back. She wanted to get their friend back as well, but this was just suicidal. If we send a team in after him, it will be the end of him. As one person, he might be able to escape. There is also the slight chance that somehow he might be able to retrieve her on his own. Tsunade says, we can't just leave him there. Sakura and several of the others chorus at once. If you charge in now, you'll be facing the entire Sound Village. It will be a suicide mission. I can't condone that. Stand down. That's an order from your Hokage. She snaps at them. She didn't like doing it. Tsunade wanted nothing more than to charge in and save the day, but that would likely get them all killed. She could only hope that Naruto would come up with a plan or get extremely lucky. A short while later, Naruto was still in Suki's room. She was still unconscious. He sighs and sits next to her, running his fingers through her hair. Her fur is rather well kept. Kurama offers and Naruto could only nod in agreement. Despite the spiky appearance, it was surprisingly soft. It felt like velvet really. He smiles at the sensation. Naturally, that's the moment that Suki chose to wake up. He was suddenly staring into a pair of very angry ruby-red eyes. Uh-oh. Naruto wisely jumps back a few feet. I can't believe you knocked me out. She growls at him. I had to. You weren't listening to me. Naruto says. So you're saying that I should knock you out all the time? You never listened to me. I told you that I would come back to the leaf. I just have to kill Itachi first. She snaps at him. Well, now I'm going to help you do that. The blonde replies. Suki sighs. Naruto was impossible. He was going to get himself killed at this rate and she wasn't sure how to prevent that. I can't do this. I can't chase Itachi and worry about you. Naruto, why couldn't you just listen to me? She demands. I told you why. Besides, I can help. I have the 9 tails. He exclaims. Fine, you can stay. Just don't bite my neck again. She says, hoping that he'd leave it that. Naruto sighs. He wraps his arms around her and hugs Suki. He knew that she didn't want him there, but now he knew why. Suki still cared about him. That's what mattered most. Yeah, about that. I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. He whispers. It's okay. It's not your fault. Suki whispers back. Naruto didn't know then. Damn it. He had almost demonically married her and he didn't even know it. She wasn't even sure how she was going to explain that to him. She did know one thing though, she couldn't tell him until after Itachi Uchiha was 6 feet under. Elsewhere Itachi was speaking with Obito. Well, he mentally corrects himself. He was speaking with Tobi. It was really Obito though. Obito, who sometimes pretended to be Madara Uchiha. Honestly, the man had more identities than most people had sandals. You're growing weaker and you know it. If this keeps up, you'll die long before she can kill you. He taunts the other man. I'll worry about that. After my death, you are to leave her alone. She has nothing to do with either of our sins. He says. That's when Itachi launches into a coughing fit. The younger Uchiha coughed up alarming amounts of blood. Damn it, the medicine wasn't working as well as it used to. As much as it pained him to admit it, Obito was right. He was going to have to act quickly. Sadly, that snake had a hold on Suki now. If he couldn't lure her away from the sound, he was going to have to visit that village. Once you are dead, there really isn't anything to stop me. I do wish that you would cease playing the role of a martyr. It truly is a shame. You have such potential and a new world is about to dawn. It's a tragic that you've chosen not to see it. Obito continues. Itachi's eyes narrow. If it wasn't for Obito, he didn't know whether or not he would have been able to go through with it. The memory of that horrible night still weighed heavily on his soul. It had to be done though. Despite that, he would do it again. Itachi had prevented a war. That was more important than any personal suffering he was enduring. His only regret was that Suki had to suffer along with him. You are aware that she's gone to Orochimaru, are you not? Obito inquires. I'm aware. She won't stay with him. He's foolish if he really believes that she's going to give him her body. She's just using him in the same manner that he believes that he's using her. Itachi reasons, I suppose that we shall see if that is indeed the case. Obito says and Itachi could only nod in agreement. In all honesty, he probably had less time than Orochimaru left. He needed to act quickly. Itachi just wasn't sure how he was going to lure her away from the sound, but he would find a way to do it. He had to. Back in the sound, Suki sighs. It was apparent that Naruto wasn't going to listen to reason. Now she had to find a way to kill Itachi and prevent her lovable, dumb blonde from getting killed. Kabuto said that I could stay with you, in your room. Naruto says, wait, what? Suki demands in outrage. Oh, when she got her hands on that damn medic, she was going to strangle him. That idiot knew that Naruto had tried to mark her. That was probably why he was so eager to have her share a room with Naruto. Damn him, he said I could share a room with you. It'd probably be safer. I mean, this place is crawling with creeps. I can protect you easier this way. He says. Of course, Naruto would say that. He probably meant it too. Any other guy would have tried to take advantage of the situation, but Naruto just wanted to play her knight in shining armor. Naruto, I'm a big girl. I don't need you to protect me. I've been here for years. I'm fine, she insists. Well, now you'll be better than fine. Naruto says, I have no idea what I'm going to do with you. I guess we'll share the bed. It's better than having one of us sleep on the floor and mess up our back. She says. Suki was trying her best not to blush. Naruto might have still been completely innocent, but she wasn't. Naruto was her first kiss and she'd never gone further than that, but she knew about kunais and pouches. She knew enough about the topic to realize what happened more often than not when men and women shared a bed. Suki, are you alright? Your face is turning kinda red. Naruto says. Damn it, why was this happening to her? Why couldn't Naruto just stay in the leaf where he was safe? Why did he have to see her blush? Well, at least he didn't realize that she was blushing. That soothed her pride a bit. Never mind, let's just get some sleep. It's probably going to be a long day tomorrow. She says with a sigh as she gets on the bed and waits for him to join her. Yeah, Naruto agrees as he gets on the bed with the girl who is constantly haunting his dreams. At some point, Suki fell asleep. Naruto smiles when he felt her curl into him. She might not let anyone near her when she was awake, but it looked like she was actually a cuddler. Who would have ever imagined that? Suki Uchiha was a cuddler. Damn, it was like the world had turned on its axis or something. Please don't wake up and kill me. Naruto whispers as he lifts the sleeping woman in his arms and flickers to the seal. He'd take her back to the leaf. Suki was going to be furious with him. He knew that. Still, Naruto would rather have an angry, live Suki than a dead Suki. That's better. Sometimes one has to be firm with their mate. If you aren't, they will walk all over you. Kurama says knowledgeably. What's the deal with all this mate stuff anyway? Naruto demands as they arrive in the leaf village. Kurama shakes his head. Naruto was young, but was he really that young? He couldn't believe that he was going to end up playing matchmaker to two baby ninjas. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry at that irony. You'll see, he says cryptically, and the Nine-Tails chuckles when he hears Naruto's rather colorful response to that. Oh, that was helpful. You useless old fleabag. Would it kill you to just give me a straight answer for once? Naruto demands. Kurama chooses that moment to ignore Naruto. Naruto grumbles and takes Suki to Tsunade's office. Granny Tsunade would know what to do, right? His instinct was to call out to her, but he knew better. That would wake up Suki. So he looks for the busty blonde and sighs in relief when he found her still in her desk. Naruto, how did you get back? She asks in astonishment. Flying Thunder God technical. I placed a seal in the leaf and at the sound. I tricked Orochimaru into thinking that I was joining him. I got Suki. I'm just not sure what to do with her now. She's going to be really mad when she wakes up. Naruto whispers. Well, first things first, chakra cuffs are a must. Tsunade says as she takes out a pair and slaps them on Suki's wrists. Uh-oh. Naruto knew that Suki was definitely not going to like that. Sadly, he couldn't really argue with Tsunade's logic. They were kinda needed. Alright, then what? He asks. You put her down, I think she's waking up. Tsunade points out and Naruto gulps as he sets Suki down in a chair and the youngest Uchiha looks around in confusion. Where am I? The Hokage's office? She whispers. Yeah, about that. I kinda used the seal to teleport us here. You're safe. Sorry about the cuffs, but it's just a precaution. Naruto says brightly. Suki is speechless. She was back in the leaf. She was back in the leaf and cuffed. How the hell did this happen? You actually outsmarted Orochimaru. I can't believe it, she says with a sigh. Yeah, I did. Believe it. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? He demands. Well, usually, planning isn't really your strong suit. You tend to rush in without thinking about the consequences. Suki replies and Tsunade shakes her head. She couldn't argue with that accurate description. The Hokage knew that Naruto was going to the... Oh boy. This was going to be a long night and it likely wouldn't take Orochimaru long to realize Suki was missing. All hell was about to break loose. Naruto blinks as he tries dodges Suki's rather vicious kick. Her hands were cuffed and she couldn't use chakra, but that didn't stop her fury. If she couldn't use her hands, she'd try kicking. If that didn't work, she'd try biting. Suki was relentless. Such a fiery vixen. She reminds me of her ancestor Madara, but with less hair and she's obviously softer. Kurama says conversationally. That was annoying. Kurama seemed to think all of this was funny. The Nine Tails thought it was funny that Suki was currently trying to kill him for the crime of saving her. I have no idea who that is, but come on. I need a little help here. The blonde exclaims. There was something really beautiful about an angry Suki. It was like watching an erupting volcano. She was magnificent in her fury. Naruto just wished that her fury wasn't directed at him. If you mark her, she'll settle down. The Nine Tails replies as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. Naruto still didn't know what marking was, but he knew that Suki wasn't going to stop anytime soon. Damn, she really was angry. Do you have any idea what you just done? She demands as she aims another kick at the blonde. Dodged your kicks? Suki, I just saved your life. You should be thanking me. You shouldn't be trying to kill me. You don't make any sense. Naruto protests as he moves to the side. Suki twitches and the blonde gulps. That was probably the wrong thing to say. The other ninja lunges at him once more. She's excellent for your agility training. I must give her that much. Kurama says with a smirk. You're not helping, Naruto says. Suki glares at the man she loved. Suki supposed that apparently love and hatred were similar emotions. They were both passionate and intense emotions. Half the time, she wanted to kiss him and the other half of the time, she wanted to strangle him. That was just how her relationship with Naruto worked. Why couldn't he see that she didn't need rescued? Suki didn't enjoy being in the sound, but it was a necessary evil. She was a big girl and could take care of herself. Naruto needed to get that through his thick skull. What doesn't make any sense is you rescuing me when I didn't need to be rescued. She says as she slams a kick into his stomach. That probably wasn't her wisest move. Naruto grabs her leg and sends the raven-haired woman flying over his shoulder. Soon enough, he was on top of her again. This was getting to be a habit, Suki muses to herself. A habit that she was going to have to break. In this position, he could easily bite her and she doubted that he even understood what marking was at this point. For someone so smart, you can be really stupid sometimes. You were at the top of our class in the academy and actually thought it was a good idea to go off on that creep? The blonde demands. I never said that it was a good idea or that I wanted to go with him. I needed to get stronger and I still do. Obviously, I do. Even a loser like you can knock me out. She mutters as she tries to shove Naruto off of her. Falling back into their old rivalry was easy. It was also likely piss him off. If she pissed him off, maybe that would make him less likely to mark her. She couldn't let him bite her until after Itachi was dead. Oh yeah? If I'm such a loser, how come I got you back here? Naruto demands. After 3 years of trying. Mostly because you got lucky. I can't believe you got past security. It's almost like he let you go. She says and then her eyes widen in horror. He had. Orochimaru had let Naruto take her away. He wanted the blonde to mark her. The Sannin had probably figured he'd do so in the Leaf Village faster than he would in the Sound. It was certainly a risky strategy, but then again this was Orochimaru. The older ninja didn't shy away from pushing his body to the limits. He wanted to find the key to immortality. That meant he was a gambler by nature. He might actually be crazy enough to let Naruto escape. Suki, are you alright? Naruto asks in confusion when he realizes that suddenly she wasn't struggling anymore. Yeah, I'm fine. You are such a loser. She growls at him. She was fine for now. Unfortunately, that wasn't the end of Orochimaru. He was going to come for her and hard. He was likely just waiting for Naruto to mark her. The last Uchiha wouldn't put it past the snake to have spies inside the Leaf Village. He'd know. Orochimaru would know, if Naruto marked her. It was yet another reason to make sure that the blonde's teeth stayed far away from her neck. TFT. Please, you're such an ice princess. He grumbles. And you still sound like a genin. Suki tells him with a smirk. Meanwhile, Orochimaru was back in the sound and in his bed. From this point on, he wasn't certain that he would be able to leave his room until the transfer took place. That was fine though. He was so close to achieving his goals. Soon enough, he would have an Uchiha vessel. Orochimaru also knew that it was likely that he would have a future Uchiha vessel lined up as well. An Uchiha vessel that would be sired by a man who possessed the power of the Nine Tails. You seem in high spirits, considering that Naruto escaped with Suki. I'm confused, Lord Orochimaru, why aren't you upset? One of his followers asks. Orochimaru hadn't even bothered to learn their name. This wasn't Sasuke or Kabuto. This was just a pawn. One day, they would likely be used as a decoy in a larger plan. The pawn was living on borrowed time. Their name wasn't important enough to remember. I wanted him to escape, you fool. He says. I don't understand. Why? He took Suki with him. Do you no longer desire for her to be your next body? The pawn asks as he holds a cup of tea to the Sanin's lips. Oh, how he hated this part. He hated being weak and vulnerable. Fortunately, Orochimaru knew that it was only temporary. Soon enough, he would have his new body and be more powerful than ever before. He just had to bide his time. You don't need to concern yourself with such things. I have my reasons. If that isn't good enough for you, then I have no use for you. I will not tolerate any disloyalty. Do I make myself clear? He asks through the pain. His entire body was now constantly screaming in agony. That didn't matter to Orochimaru though. He had been through this many times before. In a twisted way, he was used to it. Yes, Lord Orochimaru, I would never question your judgment. You should know that I'm completely loyal to you. The pawn exclaims desperately. Despite the situation, Orochimaru found himself smirking. He did so enjoy listening to the fear in the other man's voice. It meant that he had him firmly under his control. That was exactly how he liked his villagers. Sadly, Suki was going to take some work before she got to that point. The only thing that seemed to scare her at all was not killing Itachi or losing the Jinchuriki. That was fine though. The Sannin certainly knew how to take advantage of both of those facts. Send for Kabuto. I need to speak with him, immediately. Orochimaru snaps and the younger man quickly takes off. Good. He liked it when his dogs were well trained. That always made things easier. Lord Orochimaru, you wished to see me? The silver-haired medic asks as he cautiously enters Orochimaru's room a few minutes later. He knew that when he got like this, the Sannin could become rather unpredictable. Unpredictable ninjas with Orochimaru's abilities were extremely dangerous. Kabuto wasn't foolish enough to underestimate him. Yes, do we have our spies in place in the Leaf Village? I need to know when Naruto marks Suki. That is of vital importance. That and has Itachi Uchiha been spotted recently? He demands. Kabuto nods in acknowledgement. He wasn't entirely certain this plan would work. He couldn't lie though. The silver-haired medic was very interested to study the results of a mating. The few second-hand accounts that had been written were rather vague. He knew that was on purpose. None of the mates had wanted to give away any important secrets. They had just left behind a vague blueprint to help anyone else who came after them. Our spies are in place. Nothing will happen in that village without our knowledge. I will inform you the moment that I hear anything. Itachi Uchiha was spotted recently. I have sent out a team to track his moments. He says. Good. We will need his location once the marking is complete. Orochimaru says. Kabuto sighs and nods once more. He still didn't fully like this plan. While he was certainly fascinated by the concept of a mating, Orochimaru was taking a gamble here. A very dangerous gamble. The Sannin was betting that Suki would be marked before long and kill Itachi in short order. Orochimaru didn't have much time left before he had to take a new vessel or die. They all knew it. Are you certain this is a wise plan? We can likely still get her before the transfer. I know that you would be missing out on Itachi and the Jinchuriki, but at least this way we would know for sure that you would get your new body. The medic inquires. Orochimaru's eyes narrow. Kabuto was questioning him. He was questioning him out of concern, but that didn't change the fact that the man was questioning him. He didn't care for that at all. The medic was his most trusted follower. Not only for his medical skills, but also for his loyalty. If Kabuto couldn't be trusted, then no one could be trusted. Do not question me. Orochimaru hisses at him. My apologies, Lord Orochimaru. I assure you that was not my intention. I would never question you. I was merely discussing strategy. He apologizes. Orochimaru didn't believe that. Kabuto was rather fortunate that his medical skills were too valuable for him to lose. Well, he mentally corrects himself. Kabuto's medical skills were too valuable for him to lose at the moment. That might change in the future. There were few medics on par with the silver-haired man, but they did exist. He could find a replacement. It would be difficult, but he could do it. The Sannin just hoped that it didn't come to that. A few hours later, Suki was in Tsunade's office. Naruto was likely asleep at this hour. The last Uchiha didn't think that the timing of meeting was a coincidence. Suki, you've put me in a rather uncomfortable position, she says with a sigh. That wasn't my intention, but that doesn't matter to me. I'm going to avenge my family. If you try to execute me, I will fight back. I will take as many Leaf villagers down with me as I can before I go. Other than that, I don't care what you do with me. She retorts. Tsunade sighs. The woman was stubborn. If she was in the raven-haired ninja's position, she likely would have hunted down Itachi as well. The Hokage could hardly blame her for wanting to avenge her family, but that didn't change the fact that this was a very tricky situation. The council is going to want you to be punished somehow. You're the last Uchiha though. It would be genocide and the village would lose a powerful bloodline. Killing you isn't something that I want to do or really even something the council wants to do, she says with a heavy sigh. Suki raises an eyebrow. They wanted to use her for her Sharingan. She wasn't surprised by that fact. That is what the Leaf Village had done to her clan since the founding of this village. They used their strength. To a certain degree, the Leaf did this to everyone. The extent varied, but not the intent. The Leaf was very good at using their strongest villagers and then casting them aside when they were no longer useful. This village had been just fine with her when she was the lone survivor. The prodigy with the tragic past. That was until she decided to start making her own decisions that they didn't like. Now things were different. Good. If you had decided to kill me, I would have warned you not to do it for another reason. Naruto wants to mark me. I think it's subconscious, but he almost did it earlier. I'm fortunate that the chakra transfer didn't go through. I can't allow it to happen. I have to kill Itachi. Linking myself to Naruto in such a way would make him very vulnerable while I avenge my clan. The raven-haired woman says bluntly. Tsunade's eyes widen. She knew enough about Jinchurikis to realize what that meant. If they tried to kill Suki, Naruto would have likely leveled the village to the ground in a blind rage. It was only sheer dumb luck and her bloodline that had prevented such an outcome. We shall have to figure out what we are going to do with such information. A Jinchuriki who feels rejected by their mate is a very dangerous animal, even if you haven't taken his mark. The medic states. Suki bites her lower lip. She hadn't thought about that. It hadn't been a rejection, but the mark hadn't been finished. The 9 tails might feel rejected. That might transfer to Naruto. This situation could get out of hand and quickly. I didn't reject him. I didn't even know what he was doing. Kabuto is the one who saw the mark on my neck and told me the truth. Suki whispers. Tsunade frowns. She knew what that meant. Kabuto knew. That meant Orochimaru knew. The Leaf was in serious danger. You realize what this means? She asks. Orochimaru knows that Naruto tried to mark me. I'm afraid that he left Naruto escape with me. He wants him to mate with me. The last Uchiha mutters. The Hokage raises her eyebrow at Suki's response. That wasn't what she had been expecting. She had expected that the other woman would know that the other legendary Sannin was aware of the situation. She never would have dreamed that Suki would believe Orochimaru wanted her to mate with Naruto. Why do you think that he would desire for you and Naruto to become mates? It doesn't make any sense. She demands. Orochimaru loves power in all its forms. The 9 tails is certainly powerful. He has a crazy idea in his head that I can kill Itachi and Itachi will be his vessel. Naruto will be loyal to him as long as Orochimaru gives me to him. It all makes sense in a psychotic way. The raven-haired woman replies. Tsunade frowns as she considers Suki's words. As much as she was loath to admit it, they rang true. The Uchiha was telling the truth. Well, she was telling the truth as she saw it anyway. Whether or not that was actually Orochimaru's plan remained to be seen. Sadly, in some ways it didn't matter. Orochimaru knew that Naruto wanted Suki to be his mate. That was horrible news. "Do you want to be Naruto's mate?" she asks. "That's really none of your business. That's a very personal question." Suki snaps at her. The busty blonde couldn't help but smile. That response meant that the question had hit close to home. Suki may be a criminal ninja, but it was obvious that she hadn't been able to sever at least one connection she had to the Leaf Village. Her love for Naruto. It wasn't the love that one had for a teammate. It wasn't even the love that one had for a friend. Nor was it the love one had for a family member. This was obviously more than that. Suki actually did love him. Personal or not, it impacts this village. "I'm not sure you realize what a dangerous position you have now put yourself and him in," she says. "I realize it. That's why I was trying to stay away in the first place." Suki growls at her. She wished things were different. If the massacre had never happened, then she never would have gone to the Sound. Naruto probably would have already marked each other and she wouldn't be a criminal ninja. Things weren't different though. She had to find a way to protect him. At least for a little while. Suki just wasn't sure how she was going to do that yet. She'd figure something out though. Failure wasn't an option. Meanwhile, Itachi was on the move again. This time he had come to the Sound Village. If all went well, today would be his last day alive. Suki would finally get her revenge. She'd be the hero in the eyes of everyone. The hero who had killed the clan slayer, and hopefully, his sister would finally be able to move on with her life. "I don't sense her chakra," he mutters to himself as he stays hidden on the outskirts of the Sound Village. That thought unsettled him. He knew Suki's chakra signature like the back of her hand. Was she no longer in the Sound Village? Had something happened to her in his absence? "Looks like we got ourselves a game of hide and go seek," Kisame says with a smirk. Itachi would have rolled his eyes at his teammate if it wasn't beneath his dignity. Uchihas didn't roll their eyes. They were above such matters. "It would seem so," he says as he performs a transformation jutsu to look like Kabuto. Kisame follows suit. He now looked like one of the Sound villagers. His partner had chosen a high-level villager for a good reason. No one would be suspicious if they were walking around the village. "Did you hear?" a Sound villager asks another. "That the Uchiha left with the Jinchuriki?" "Yeah, I heard. Lord Orochimaru is going to be furious." The other replies. Itachi's eyes narrow. So that's why she wasn't here. She had left with Naruto. That was mostly a good thing. At least this way, she wouldn't end up giving Orochimaru her body. On the other hand, now it meant he had to track her down again. Well, at least now he knew where to start looking. The Leaf. She'd likely be in the Leaf Village. That was going to pose a challenge. He couldn't allow himself to get caught, and somehow, he had to leave her away from that place. They would need privacy for their final battle. Well, I guess that answers that question. We need to get going, Kisame says as he teleports off with Itachi. He knew the truth. Itachi was really sick. If they stayed there too long, he'd launch into another coughing fit. Someone was definitely going to notice if Kabuto started coughing up blood. It was in their best interest to get out of there and quickly. Meanwhile, back in the Leaf, Naruto had just woken up from another dream. A very vivid dream. He was starting to get a little concerned. "Kurama, tell me what's going on. Why do I keep dreaming about biting her like that? It's not normal," he demands. They had been fighting. It was after the retrieval team found Suki and they were along. Naruto's teeth had sunk into her neck. Only this time, it didn't stop there. "Naruto," she gasped and arched against him. This time, he knew that was giving her some of his chakra. He knew that it was important, but not why. That, and she felt so good pressed up against him like that, and he really liked it when she said his name that way. It was exciting for reasons he didn't completely understand. It felt even better when she bit him back. After a moment or two, he saw that Orochimaru's mark had been covered over by an orange spiral pattern. It was like she had his name tattooed on her neck in a way. For some reason, he found that extremely satisfying. It's perfectly normal for someone who with a tailed beast inside them to take a mate. "I suppose I shall try to simplify things for you. My kind doesn't believe in marriages. We show our appreciation for our lovers in different ways," he says. "You don't get married? Then what do you do?" "Wait, what do lovers have to do with anything?" Naruto asks in confusion. Kurama just shakes his head. Maybe Naruto was just one of those humans who reached maturity later than others. He didn't know. Sometimes it was amusing. At other times, it could be rather annoying to have such a naive host. How the blonde had kept his innocence when he was taught by Jiraiya and Kakashi was completely beyond Kurama's understanding. You want to bite her because she's your mate. Once you two bite each other and exchange chakra, by demonic standards you are what humans call married. There are many advantages to such an arrangement, though there are a few disadvantages. The Nine Tails explains. Naruto blinks. Wait, what? Kurama was trying to say that he wanted to marry Suki? Well, that's really interesting and all, but I don't like her that way. I mean, she's Suki. She's my teammate. She's my rival. She's my friend. I don't like her that way. Naruto insists. Kurama just shakes his head. There were many strange things about humans. One of the strangest was how difficult they made it to mate. He would never understand it. Do you honestly believe that the reason why you chase her is merely because she's your friend? So you wouldn't mind at all if, say, Kabuto was to express a romantic interest in her? Well, she doesn't seem too fond of him. Perhaps Neji instead? They would seem a rather compatible pair. The Nine Tails taunts him. Naruto clenches his fists and grits his teeth. He wasn't sure why, but the thought of Neji with Suki like that made him see red. He shouldn't be angry about something like that. Suki could date whoever she wanted, as long as she wasn't with that snake creep. That didn't change the fact that he was angry about it though, and that disturbed him. That'd be completely up to her. It wouldn't bother me at all. He lies. You are an extremely pathetic liar. You chose her at a young age. It's not surprising that you didn't recognize what you chose her for. At least she isn't as oblivious as you. Kurama continues. Naruto blinks. The Nine Tails was basically saying that Suki knew about them being mates. She knew and she didn't tell him. I'm going to go talk to her right now. You're crazy. Naruto grumbles. He quickly rushes off to find Suki. The blonde had to talk to her. One way or another, Naruto was going to find out if Kurama was right or wrong. He just wasn't sure what he was going to do, if Kurama turned out to be right. Suki was back in her district. Tsunade had apparently decided without access to her chakra, she wasn't as big of a threat. The busty blonde wasn't stupid though. Suki could sense that there were some Enbu scattered throughout the district. In a way, it was flattering. The fifth Hokage thought enough of her skills that she believed it was necessary to have a team of Enbu watch Suki. Despite the fact that she couldn't access her chakra, Tsunade still took her seriously. Naruto? She whispers to herself when she feels a very familiar chakra signature rushing towards her. Naruto wasn't flickering though. He'd never been inside the Uchiha district before. That was probably why. That and the Anbu team likely wouldn't respond well to him suddenly appearing without any warning. Naruto must have realized that and decided to make his way to her on foot. Suki? He calls out as he knocks on her door, a few minutes later. The last female Uchiha sighs and goes to answer her door. She couldn't believe that the blonde had actually entered her district. Suki wasn't too happy about that fact. Her childhood home was now more of a cemetery than anything else. All the houses were empty, save for her own. Many were now badly damaged from neglect. It was a depressing sight to say the least. I'm here. What do you want? She asks. The gardens were now being completely reclaimed by nature. Gone were the beautiful flowers, medicinal herbs, and small food gardens. They had been replaced by weeds and overgrown grass now. Grass that she was sure was hiding more than a few snakes and other animals. Mostly though, it was the quiet. That was what made her home so eerie. Other than Naruto, it was deadly silent. Not even the Anbu dared to make a sound. Kurama's been acting really weird. Naruto says warily. It was as if they were afraid of disturbing the dead. Suki couldn't blame them, if that was indeed the reason why they were being so quiet. Her district was so cold and lifeless now. Naruto didn't belong here. The bubbly blonde definitely didn't belong here when he was saying things like that. Damn it. Suki had a bad feeling that she knew where this was going. The Nine Tails must have been talking to Naruto about everything. Come inside. I'd rather not have the Anbu overhear you talking about the Nine Tails. She says as she moves to the side and lets Naruto inside. Yeah, good point. Thanks. You know, I've never been to your house before. Naruto says as he looks around curiously. Suki felt a bit embarrassed. She hadn't been here in years. It was in bad need of a cleaning. Dust and cobwebs were everywhere. Not to mention it was so bare and empty. It didn't look like anyone lived there because no one had for years. It's a little gloomy. Maybe some flowers and new curtains might help. The blue-eyed ninja suggests. Suki didn't think that flowers were going to help. She especially didn't care about curtains. She shakes her head in amusement though. That was Naruto for you. He was more worried about her interior decorating habits than the 9 tails. He really needed to sort out his priorities. I'll think about the flowers and curtains, but right now we have more important things to talk about. What has the 9 tails been saying to you? She asks. She really wasn't going to think about the flowers or curtains. Suki didn't plan on being in the leaf long enough for it to matter. She had to find a way to get out of these chakra cuffs and then she would find Itachi. Once her brother was dead, the last Uchiha would come back to the leaf. That was her plan. He's been talking about things like mates and marking. The blonde answers honestly and Suki internally winces. This was bad. Naruto already knew about mating. Well, he at least knew the name. Suki could only hope that the fox had left him mostly in the dark. What's he saying about mating? She inquires cautiously. That you're my mate and I'm supposed to bite you. It makes a mark, but that's crazy. Biting someone doesn't mean anything, right? Naruto asks. She bites her lower lip and sighs. She could lie to Naruto, but there was the chance that the 9 tails would tell him the truth. Lying might buy her some time, but it wouldn't solve the issue in the long run. It might be better to confront it head on. Demons are different than people in some ways. Mating is one of them. It doesn't matter though. Nothing is going to happen until Itachi is dead. She tells him, wait, so you know what this marking thing is? The blonde asks. I know what it is, but it doesn't matter at the moment. Now, can you get me out of these damn cuffs? Suki asks. Naruto shakes his head. There was no way that he was letting her out of those cuffs. While she had them on, Suki wouldn't try anything stupid. She wouldn't try anything stupid like running away. The cuffs were staying on. No, you don't have to do this alone. You know that, right? He asks. I know that, but this is my problem. Not yours. I don't want you anywhere near him. You could get killed. She snaps at him. Naruto growls. She was worried about him getting killed, but Suki wasn't worried about herself. Didn't she see that this might be a suicide mission? Why wouldn't she let anyone help her? She's stubborn. I suppose you are either going to have to go with her or you'll have to mark her. If she stays here without a mark, she'll keep trying to escape. Kurama says. The young ninja hated to admit it, but Kurama was right. Suki was stubborn. She'd try to run off again. They all knew that she would. How'd I mark her? I get that I have to bite her neck, but what happens after that? He asks. You inject your chakra into her. Do it just like you would eject chakra from your hands. The only difference is that this time, you are emitting it from your mouth. Kurama explains. Clearly pleased Naruto had decided to listen to him. Naruto didn't fully understand the marking thing, but that sounded like a really good idea at the moment. This way, Suki would stay. She'd be safe in the leaf. They could sort out the rest later. With that in mind, the blonde grabbed her. He quickly proceeds to tilt her head to the side and tries to bite her. Suki didn't take this too well. The raven-haired beauty swiftly brings her knee up and rams it into his stomach. Oh, he snarls in pain. You deserved it. That's what you get for trying to bite me. You really shouldn't listen to that furball. Did he even tell you what the marking meant? Do you have any idea what you almost did again? The last female Uchiha thunders at him. No, Naruto didn't really understand. He just knew that it'd make her stay and something about lovers. He still thought that Kurama was a bit out of his mind at the last part. Suki didn't even like him that way. It was completely crazy. Naruto didn't really care though. He just wanted to protect his friend. The blonde didn't really care what he had to do in order to do that. No, why don't you explain it to me? He demands as he comes at her again. Suki manages to dodge. Naruto had no idea how she did it. Even with her hands cuffed, she was still the embodiment of grace. It was a bit annoying really and very distracting. Because you'd be an idiot and you would take it the wrong way. Suki growls at him and kicks a vase at him. This would be so much easier if she could at least use her hands. Now she had to outrun him or use her legs. That or maybe her teeth. If worse came to worst, she could try biting him. As long as she didn't inject chakra, that would be okay. What the hell? You threw a glass vase at me. The blonde exclaims in outrage. I'll do a lot worse than that to you, if you don't knock it off. I know what I'm doing, Naruto. You don't. Just leave it at that. The raven-haired woman informs him. Naruto was not going to leave it at that. He was going to get some damn answers. There was no way that he was going to let her leave like this. She couldn't even use chakra. She'd get herself killed. That was why he charged at her and slammed her into the ground. Suki wasn't going quietly though. She kicked, kneed, and even tried biting him. The woman was like a wild animal at the moment. "Oh, will you stop biting me?" he demands as they roll around and around on the floor. They were moving so fast that it was impossible to tell who was winning. Naruto's body ached from Suki's kicks and bites. He was almost positive that her teeth might have managed to draw blood at a couple points. He wasn't going to give up though. This was important. The only way that she was ever going to stay was for him to prove that he wasn't dead weight. He could help her against Itachi. One of the best ways of proving that was by beating her in this battle of wills. Well, at least that was what was going on in the blonde's mind as he fought with Suki for control. "I will stop biting you when you stop trying to bite me." Suki growls at him. For some reason, Naruto really liked that growl. It made his teeth elongate. Naruto could feel it and could tell that Suki had noticed because her eyes had just widened in surprise. "I wouldn't have to bite you if you would stop trying to run away. I just don't want anything bad to happen to you." "Is that really so bad?" he demands. Suki mentally sighs. Naruto was just trying to help. Granted, he was going about it in the right way. His heart was in the right place though. Maybe a change of tactics was in order. "No, it's not so bad. I know you are only trying to help me. Naruto, I'm sorry. I don't mean to hurt you and I know that you don't mean to be annoying. It's just that I have to do this." She whispers and tries her best to look apologetic. It really wasn't that hard. Suki did feel a bit guilty about all those bruises and bite marks covering him. She loved Naruto. She didn't want to hurt him, but the Uchiha would. If she had to, she'd fight him. Did she just say she was sorry? Suki never does that. Naruto asks in disbelief. "Yes, I do believe she did. Maybe your display of aggression soothed her." Kurama replies. Naruto really didn't get how a display of aggression would calm Suki down. Then again, this was Suki. Who really knew what went on in her head? He doubted even Suki understood Suki. "I know. I don't blame you. I just wish that you wouldn't go about it in a really stupid way." "Seriously, Suki. Orochimaru is bad news. You know that, right?" he asks. "I know that, but he's also strong. Do you think that I wanted to be there? I would have rather be in the Leaf. I would have rather been with Team 7, but I didn't have a choice," she says and fakes a grimace. She knew that it was evil, but sometimes one had to fight dirty. Naruto was a naturally empathetic person. He didn't like seeing others in pain. If he thought that she was seriously hurt, he'd get off of her. "Damn it, how bad did I get you?" Naruto asks. "Bad. You're also kinda sitting on my ribs and that hurts," she mutters. "Oh, I'm sorry," Naruto says as he gets off her and helps Suki up. Suki finds herself smiling, despite the situation. He was so sweet. The idiot really was worried about her. That made her feel guilty for what she was about to do, but it wasn't going to change her mind. "It's okay. I'm sorry too," she whispers into his ear when she felt him wrap his arms around her in a hug. "What are you sorry about?" he asks in confusion. "Everything, but especially for this," Suki says as she raises her knee high enough to hit him hard in the stomach. Naruto grunts in pain and falls over. That's when Suki took the opportunity to run like hell. She couldn't use her chakra and that put her at a disadvantage, but she had to find a way to escape. If she could get to the sound, Orochimaru would undo the cuffs. Then she could find Itachi. Once she found him, she'd kill her brother. After that, Suki would return to the Leaf and hope that Naruto could forgive her. With that thought in mind, she takes off running as fast as she possibly could. "Damn it," Naruto growls as he tries to power through the pain. "We should have anticipated that. She has to be the most stubborn vixen that I have ever met." Kurama says. "That's one way to put it. Come on, we have to find her," Naruto says as he races off after Suki. Meanwhile, with Kisame and Itachi, the two of them were heading towards the Leaf Village. The former mist ninja glances over at his partner warily. Itachi was stubborn, but the shark lover wasn't entirely certain how much longer he would last. It seemed like it was mostly his sheer force of will that was keeping him alive. The criminal ninja couldn't help but wonder if Itachi would have lived if he was actually receiving proper medical treatment instead of just some pills. It was an interesting question. "Are you afraid of it?" he asks. "Am I afraid of what?" Itachi inquires as the two of them walk side by side towards the Leaf Village. Death, you seem pretty intent on rushing straight at it. You know you don't necessarily have to die. If you told your sister the truth, there is a chance she could forgive you. Even if she didn't, you might be able to get better if you saw a real medic instead of just clung to those pills. The blue-skinned man clarifies. Itachi frowns as he considers the question. Did he fear death? No, not really. It'd be something of a relief in reality. Suki could avenge their family. She'd be the hero and he wouldn't have to live with his guilt. All in all, it was the perfect solution in his mind and one that he longed for. No, I don't fear it. Do you? Itachi inquires. He was likely going to die soon. There was no harm in making conversation with Kisame. It wasn't as though the man could use it against him. It's something that I'd like to avoid for as long as possible. It's an animal instinct to fight for your survival. It kinda creeps me out that you apparently don't have that instinct. He admits as they continue walking. Itachi merely shakes his head. What reason did he really have to go on? Suki was the last of his truly precious people and the world would keep spinning without him. He was certain of that much. It unnerves me that you speak of yourself as if you were an actual shark sometimes. That makes us even. We both have our own odd mannerisms. The last male Uchiha says. Suppose you're right about that much. We should probably stop to rest for a bit. You need to take those damn pills of yours. The other man says. Itachi smirks. He'd never come out and say it, but Kisame cared. In some sort of twisted way, the Uchiha was almost positive that he might have been Kisame's first friend. Most likely, his only friend. Of course, he says simply as they stop and he take his seat on a rather large rock. It was conveniently placed. The rock was large and warm. Really, it was the perfect place to stop and rest for a few moments before he consumed his medication. Medication that he desperately needed. If he was going to live long enough for Suki to kill him, he was going to have to continue take the damn pills, as Kisame called them. He knew that his friend didn't really understand his decisions, but that was all right. We should get you proper medical treatment. It'd be a shame if you died before she could kill you. Kisame taunts him. Kisame might not really understand his motivations, but he respected them. The other man babbled a lot. Far more than Itachi felt was necessary, but he didn't really pry. He respected Itachi's privacy and that was a fact that Itachi found himself very grateful for. I may have to consider it. Itachi says reluctantly as he coughs up some more blood. At that same moment, Suki was barreling towards the Sound Village. She might not be able to use her chakra, but her legs work just fine. Orochimaru would be able to get these stupid cuffs off her. She just had to be sure to avoid Naruto. He was fast, but she was confident that she still had the edge and speed. Well, unless Jiraiya had taught him something. She wasn't worried about the Flying Thunder God technique at the moment because Naruto didn't know where she was going. She just had to outrun him. Come on, she whispers to herself as she bolts off towards the Sound Village. It was such a strange sensation. It was probably her least favorite place on Earth, after her district. Despite that, she was hurtling towards it as if her life depended on it. Maybe in a way, it did. She was trying to protect Naruto as much as herself. The mating bond was too deep. It was too intense. Her lovable dumb blonde might not survive it, if she died in the fight with Itachi. I won't let that happen though, she says to herself. Unfortunately, she knew that was a very real possibility. Itachi had taken out their clan single-handedly. He had only been 13 at the time. Her brother had likely only gotten stronger since then. There was a very real chance that she might die in their final battle. Orochimaru. Kabuto. She calls out desperately. Kabuto hears her call and flickers over to her. She sighs in relief. She had done it. She glances back over her shoulder and was even more relieved to discover that Naruto wasn't right behind her. Where's Naruto? He asks. I left him behind. He's likely coming after me. I need these cuffs undone, she says as she holds out her hands. Kabuto raises an eyebrow. This was not what he expected. He would have thought that Naruto would have marked Suki by now. It didn't make any sense that she would return alone, in chakra cuffs. Come inside. We'll get those cuffs off of you. You have a lot of explaining to do. I suppose we can start with why you are wearing chakra cuffs. He muses as he gestures for Suki to follow him. Suki sighs and does so. Well, it was a start. At least she'd be able to use her chakras soon. That was something. At that same moment, Naruto was trying to follow Suki's scent in a panic. He had to find her. She was almost completely defenseless like this. If she went back to Orochimaru in that condition, he'd probably take her body. He wants the two of you to mate. He wouldn't take her body before that. I imagine that he wants the two of you to sire a child together. That child would be his backup vessel. Kurama says, "That's supposed to make me feel better?" Naruto demands incredulously. "Not necessarily. I'm merely explaining the reality of the situation." The Nine Tails informs him. Naruto was really tempted to strangle Kurama. He definitely wasn't making things better. He ignores the impulse though. Naruto had more important things to focus on. He had to get Suki out of there. Orochimaru wants us to mate. Suki thinks that he let us escape. There's a chance that I could just go inside. Naruto muses to himself. The blonde ponders that possibility for a moment. He didn't know if it was true or not. At best, it was a 50-50 shot. Deciding that it was better than nothing, he darts inside the Sound Village. Suki was around here somewhere. He just knew it. All he had to do was figure out where. Then he was going to drag her home. Again, you certainly chose yourself quite the stubborn mate. Truly, I believe her to be even more stubborn than Madara Uchiha. Kurama muses. You're not helping. Wait, who is Madara? Naruto asks. Never mind. Just go find your mate and then I won't have to listen to your constant whining. Kurama says and Naruto grumbles as he darts off do exactly that. Naruto had never been more angry in his entire life. Did Suki have a death wish or something? She had just run off while she was in chakra cuffs. Was she trying to get killed? You'd be wise to grab her and then use the seal to return to the leaf. This village is dangerous. I'd level it to the ground if your mate wasn't inside it. Kurama says. You still haven't explained exactly what that means. Naruto snaps at him as he looks around. He knew that his eyes were likely red. Naruto could feel that his teeth had become sharper and so had his senses. He hadn't gone full Kyuubi yet, but he was close. He was too close to losing control to put up with Kurama's cryptic nature. You're the most oblivious human that I have ever met. That is certainly saying something because most of your species tends to be pathetically dim-witted. The Nine Tails replies. Naruto growls in irritation. He wasn't in the mood to deal with Kurama's games. He had to find Suki and the blonde wanted to know what the hell a mate was once and for all. Just tell me. He snaps at him. Humans have different terms for it. The closest approximation in your species would be husband or wife. Mating goes much deeper than that, but that's the easiest way to explain it. I believe that Suki understands about mating bonds. That's likely the reason why she's avoiding you. The fox demon explains. Naruto's eyes widen. That couldn't be true, could it? That's why he wanted to bite her so much and why she was avoiding him. There's no way that she's my mate. There has to be some kind of mistake. She doesn't like me that way. He says. Kurama rolls his eyes. Humans had to make everything difficult. They had to rationalize things. Why they couldn't just accept when they found their mates, he would never know. You almost marked her twice. There's no mistake. Learn to trust your instincts. That and you should duck. Kurama warns him. Naruto quickly ducks and it was a good thing he did. He was being attacked by a group of sound ninjas. That just wasn't right. He was in the middle of a conversation. Shadow clone jutsu. He shouts as a dozen or so clones form. He didn't know if Suki was actually his mate. At the moment, it didn't matter though. What mattered is that he had to find her and get her out of here. Meanwhile Suki stiffens. She could hear Naruto's voice. Damn it, this wasn't supposed to happen. I have to go talk to him. Suki says, once Kabuto undoes the cuffs. Of course, you better hurry. Our ninjas will tear him apart, if he doesn't ask the Nine Tails for help and that would be rather unfortunate. The silver-haired medic says. Suki quickly darts off. She'd deal with Kabuto later. Right now, she needed to prevent a bloodbath. Stop, he's with me. Suki screams as she races towards the Jinchuriki and Sound Ninjas. All the Narutos and Sound Ninjas suddenly stop fighting. Their eyes were suddenly fixed on Suki in surprise and the Uchiha takes a deep breath. She wasn't entirely sure how she was going to convince the idiot to go back to the leaf, but that's exactly what she was going to do. If your name isn't Naruto, leave. Lord Orochimaru has put me in charge of this village during his illness. She thunders at them. She can be really bossy. Naruto observes. All Uchihas tend to be that way. Kurama replies to his host. The sound ninjas retreat. Naruto was almost certain that they were going to tell Orochimaru about what was happening. He didn't care though. His priority was getting Suki out of there, not beating up sound ninjas. Loser, get out of here. Suki orders him as she activates her Sharingan. The youngest Uchiha could only hope that it wouldn't come down to a fight. Unfortunately, she was almost positive that it would. That was the nature of her relationship with Naruto. They communicated best when their fists and jutsus were flying. I'm not going back without you. I don't understand it. Not completely anyway, but now I know why you keep running away from me. Kurama finally explained about mates. How long have you known? Why didn't you tell me? He yells at her. Suki stiffens. Damn it, the Nine Tails told Naruto. How on earth was she going to explain this? Because I knew that you'd take it the wrong way. She whispers. You're supposed to be my wife. What other way is there to take that? Which doesn't make any sense because you sure don't act like you are in love with me. Naruto says. Suki flinches at that. He was right. She didn't act like it, but that didn't make it any less true. She really wished that she wasn't in love with him, but she was. Naruto, just go. I can prevent them from attacking you. The raven-haired ninja tells him. Not this time. I'm not going to let you do something stupid and get yourself killed. I finally get it. Well, at least a little bit. Naruto says as he walks over towards her and Suki takes a few steps back. If you're thinking about marking me, don't. Don't be stupid, she warns him. As soon as the words came out of her mouth, Suki regretted them. This was Naruto. If you told him not to do something, he'd do it. Well, seeing as you have called me an idiot at least 1,000,000 times, I guess you should be used to me being stupid. Naruto says as he tries to grab Suki, but she takes off running. Damn it, she mutters under her breath as she runs as fast as her legs could carry her. She had always had an edge when it came to speed, but Naruto had the Nine Tails. His stamina wasn't even human. Her only hope was to outrun him long enough to lose him. The youngest Uchiha should have taken into account that Naruto's favorite jutsu, other than the Rasengan, was the Shadow Clone Jutsu. She didn't just have to outrun one Naruto. She had to outrun a lot of them. Chidori, Suki cries out when one of the clones gets too close. This was ridiculous. There were way too many of them. She was going to need a little help. Once she had distracted the clones with her Chidori, she quickly summons Aota. Aota had to be faster than Naruto, right? Naruto growls and summons his massive toad in retaliation. Suki grumbles at this move. Damn Jiraiya. The sage had taught Naruto how to summon toads. Their summons would be locked in a stalemate. Aota, go, Suki says, sending her snake off. There was no point in having a battle of the summons. Besides, that move might confuse Naruto enough that she could get away. Why did he have to be so damn stubborn? Sadly, Naruto didn't fall for it. The clones come charging at her. Suki throws kicks and punches at them. One by one, they disappear. Clones were easy to deal with. Well, most of the time, they were easy to deal with. Most people didn't have Naruto's nearly unlimited supply of chakra. This is bad, she mutters to herself. Was it possible that Naruto was trying to wear her out with clones? It wasn't a bad strategy. Though she normally didn't associate the word strategy with the blonde. When you bite her, make certain that you inject her with chakra. Kurama reminds Naruto. Unbeknownst to Suki, Naruto, and Kurama, they had an audience. Kabuto was watching. He quickly flickers back to Orochimaru. Lord Orochimaru, Suki is engaging Naruto in combat. I suspect he is trying to mark her. What are your orders? He says. It was a shame. Orochimaru couldn't even go to the battlefield. He was far too weak for that. A transfer was going to have to take place and soon. Otherwise, he feared for the worst. Orochimaru didn't have much time left. Don't interfere. I have every confidence that Naruto will tap into the power of the Nine Tails to mark her. Instruct all of our people to stand down. I do not want them to engage Suki or Naruto. He hisses. Every moment of his life was now spent in extreme agony. It was only sheer force of will that allowed him to keep his sanity. Orochimaru knew that he was close to achieving immortality. He could feel it. The Nine Tails and Suki were the key to unlocking the secret of eternal life. The Sannin could feel it in his very bones. Of course, Kabuto says as he heads off to carry out Orochimaru's orders. The medic could certainly see why such a union would interest Orochimaru. It was rare to watch a tailed beast's host choose someone as their mate, and even rarer to get a real chance to study said mating. Honestly though, he thought that Orochimaru was taking an unnecessary risk. He was gambling that Suki would be able to find Itachi and he could use Itachi as his vessel. He was also hoping that Suki and Naruto would successfully mate and produce at least one child. There were simply too many variables to make this a wise decision in his eyes. Well, if I question his decision, that won't end well for me. I'll have to trust that Lord Orochimaru knows what he's doing. Kabuto whispers to himself. He quickly summons the other sound villagers and gives them the order. If Orochimaru didn't want them to disturb Naruto and Suki, then they wouldn't be allowed to do so. It really was as simple as that for the moment. Meanwhile, Suki was still fighting clones. She had formed some of her own to help with the task. Unfortunately, this was one jutsu that Naruto was just better at. That was because he had far more chakra than she did. Damn it, Naruto, why won't you just quit? She snarls at him. Because I love you and I don't want you to die. The blonde snaps at her as their clones clash. Suki freezes when she hears those words. He had said it. He hadn't said because they were friends this time. He had said that it was because he loved her. Do you really mean that? Suki whispers. Naruto bites his lower lip. He couldn't believe that he had said that. Suki was his friend. He didn't love her that way. Well, at least he didn't think that he did. That was until the words came out of his mouth. As much as he wanted to deny it, they felt true. Maybe Kurama was right. Maybe Suki really was supposed to be his wife. It explained a lot really. Yeah, I mean it, he says as he tries to get closer to the real Suki. I love you too. That's why I can't take you with me. I want you to be safe. Naruto, go back to the leaf. I'll come back, I promise, she says. Naruto really wanted to believe that. He really wanted to believe that she was going to survive the battle with Itachi and that she'd come back. The blonde couldn't be sure of either of those things though. Kurama was right. He was going to have to mark her. It was really the only way to protect her from doing something stupid. Besides, she had said that she loved him. That meant something. I'm not going to take that chance. Naruto tells her as he slams the other ninja into the ground. Suki snarls at him and the two were soon struggling for control. Naruto felt Suki charge up a Chidori all along the length of her body. This time though, he wasn't going to let go. She was going to have to do a lot better than that to get away. Suki had always enjoyed fighting with Naruto. It was probably unhealthy, but she loved being pushed to her limits. As desperate as she was to save him from his own naivety, part of her reveled in the feeling of his body against hers. The feeling of the dirt underneath her or against her skin. The small rocks digging into her. The harsh pain that followed every blow, only to be replaced by the satisfaction of landing her own hit. You're not going to win this time. She growls at him. The hell he wasn't. Finally, Naruto manages to pin her. Suki was still struggling underneath him, but he clearly had the advantage. Looks like I did win. I won't mark you, unless you want me to. It's basically a marriage. That wouldn't be fair, Naruto says. Suki blinks as she looks up at Naruto. His eyes were still red and his teeth were noticeably sharper, but he was actually at least somewhat in control of herself. That fact was nothing short of a miracle really. I want you to. I just don't want you to feel what I feel. I don't want to put you through that. I don't want you to mark me and then die, if I die. You don't deserve that, she whispers. Then you just have to not get killed. It's that simple, Naruto says with a grin. You really are such a loser. Life isn't a fairy tale, Suki says with a wistful smile. Naruto knew that life wasn't a fairy tale. He had apparently fallen in love with a girl that had tried to kill him. That definitely wasn't a fairy tale. It might not have been romantic, but his feelings for her were real. They might have been subconscious for a long time, but suddenly it all made sense. In a twisted way, so did Suki's actions. Maybe not, but it doesn't have to be a tragedy, Naruto says as he covers part of Suki's creamy neck with his mouth. Suki shivers at the feeling of his lips and teeth against her skin. Naruto was Naruto. Even half under the influence of Kurama, it seemed like he wanted permission. Do it, she whispers in a voice so low that it was a miracle that Naruto had even heard her. She couldn't do it, not after he said that he loved her. Not with his eyes looking at her with such sincerity. This time, she couldn't push him away. Suki knew that she should. She should push him away for his own good. This was Naruto though. He would keep coming back. Maybe in the end, this would actually keep him safer than trying to keep him at a distance. To encourage him further, she bites down lightly on Naruto's neck. That ought to get the message across. Apparently, no further prompting was needed. Naruto bites down hard. She could feel his fangs beneath her skin, but for some reason didn't hurt. There was something incredibly erotic about the feeling. NHH. She cries out as she bites down on his neck hard, after Naruto's chakra began flooding into the small puncture marks that his teeth had made. She couldn't describe it. It was like her chakra was being fanned or caressed at the same time. Her first natural affinity was fire and Naruto's was wind. In the back of her mind, dimly she realized that might actually be what was happening. Naruto groans in pleasure when he felt Suki's teeth sink into her neck. He could feel her chakra spreading throughout his system. It was hot like the fire that he associated with her. He wasn't sure why, but the fire felt really, really good. Almost indescribably so. She's going to fall asleep once the mark takes full effect. After that happens, take her back to the leaf. Use the seal you created. Kurama instructs him. Got it, Naruto says as he watches the mark form on Suki's neck. It was just like the one in his dreams. The blonde takes a moment to admire it and to ride out the high that came with his own claiming. That's when he realizes that Suki had indeed fallen asleep. Naruto smiles. It was nice to see Suki sleeping. For once, her guard was completely let down and she looked so relaxed. He almost felt guilty about picking her up and racing off towards the seal. Let's get you home, he whispers to the sleeping dark beauty who was currently nestled, surprisingly sweetly in his arms. Sweetly. That was one word that he never would have used to describe Suki before. Then again, he had never expected to be demonically married to her either. All in all, it was a day filled with surprises really. Unfortunately, there was one more surprise in store for them. He could sense chakra signatures rapidly approaching them. ANBUS. Great, now I have to try to explain all this to them, he says with a sigh. Naruto, are you alright? Is that Suki? One of the Anbu demands. Yeah, I'm fine. I got Suki. I knocked her out. She's okay though. It'd probably be better if I explained this one to the Hokage. It'll be less confusing that way, he reasons. The blonde could see that the Anbu were skeptical. After a moment or two, they reluctantly nod their heads in agreement. Naruto mentally sighs in relief. Thank goodness. He really didn't want them to overhear what he was about to say to Granny Tsunade. That would be super embarrassing. Not to mention, Suki would probably kill him. If she thought that he was going around and telling everyone about their marriage, well, she'd likely turn into one angry Uchiha. Alright, let's get you back, they say. No worries. I can use the seal that I made to get us back to the leaf. Pervy Sage taught me the Flying Thunder God technique, he explains as he takes them to the seal. The ANBUS seem rather relieved at that explanation and Naruto takes them back to the leaf. It was annoying that they followed him to Tsunade's office, but he knew better than to argue with them. They were just following proper protocol. Naruto, what did you do this time? Tsunade demands when she notices a sleeping Uchiha was in his arms. It's a really long story. Can you send them away? It's kinda personal. Naruto stays brightly. Tsunade sighs and gestures for the Anbu to leave. It didn't take them long to depart. None of them were particularly eager to earn the wrath of their Hokage. Alright kid, you better start talking now, she says. Well, it's a really long story. I went after Suki when she snuck off. We were fighting at her place. She was crazy and took off with the cuffs still on her, he exclaims. Tsunade groans. Yes, that was certainly crazy. She would have expected Suki Uchiha to be smarter than that. Unfortunately, that wasn't entirely unpredictable. What happened next? The busty blonde asks. Well, I got there. Some sound ninja tried to fight me. Suki showed up and scared them off though. We started fighting and eventually, I marked her. I guess it's the demonic version of a marriage. She let me do it though. I didn't force her or anything creepy like that. I'm not Orochimaru, he insists. Tsunade shakes her head. She knew that Naruto didn't force mark Suki. That just wasn't who he was. He was stubborn, but he wouldn't actually take away someone's free will like that. I believe you. Well, take her home. You should be with your mate now. I know enough about mating to have a vague idea what is going on. As stupid as it was of you to mark her, it can't be reversed. We'll just have to make the best of it, she says with a sigh. Naruto growls at the Hokage. He didn't like her saying that about his mating. He barely understood what mating meant, but his mating was not stupid. Tsunade blinks. Naruto had just growled at her. He had growled at her in a way that sounded far too similar to an animal for her like. Almost like a fox. That wasn't a good sign. It wasn't stupid. He snaps at her. I'm sorry, Naruto. I didn't mean it that way. I just mean that it wasn't a wise decision to attach yourself to someone whose main goal in life is to kill their brother. She reasons. Naruto sighs. He hated to admit it, but Granny Tsunade had a point there. It was hard to believe that Suki could sleep so peacefully in his arms and be motivated so strongly by hatred. Well, it wasn't just hatred that motivated her. She wanted to protect him too. Suki just went about it in a really messed up way. That was all. It's okay. I get it. I'm going to take her back to the Uchiha district now. I don't think that she'll try to run again. Well, at least not without me. Naruto says as he carries his bride back to her district. It still gave him the creeps. The place was so dead. It just didn't suit Suki. She might have been angry most of the time, but she was alive. He half expected a ghost to jump out at them or something. Really, the Uchiha district was that spooky. We're definitely getting those curtains and flowers. Naruto mutters as he carries her back into her house. He wasn't really sure which room was Suki's. So he just lays her on the couch and smiles. She hadn't woken up once during their trip. That had to be a sign of trust, right? She really is beautiful. How didn't I notice that before? Probably because we were always fighting, Naruto thinks to himself. If Naruto had known what was about to happen, he wouldn't have been so relaxed. Kisame and Itachi were now getting closer and closer to the Leaf Village. A certain Uchiha knew that he was running out of time and he wanted to ensure that Suki was the one to kill him. That would bring her some sense of peace. That and it would make Suki a hero in the eyes of the Leaf Village. Killing him would give her the opportunity to start over and write a happier chapter in their clan's history. There was just one problem. He had to live long enough for Suki to kill him. Right now, he wasn't entirely sure that he was going to manage that. That's all for now. If you enjoy it, then please like, share and do comments.